All right, we are live. Hey, y'all.
Hey, hey,
Hey, how's everybody doing?
I'm good. Gotta fix my curtains a little bit.
Is everybody feeling all right?
Feeling pretty good.
Let me see what the comments are looking like.
Yeah, it always takes the comments like a little second to like come through. It always moves so slow. All right, y'all. Doesn't Deidre look cute?
Shut up. Keep going. No.
All right, y'all. So, what we are here to do is talk about the Coldest Winter Ever by Sister Soldier. What we do first is I think that the three of us, Erica is going to be joining us a little later. Let's just introduce ourselves, say, what our channel is, talk a little bit about how many times you've read the book, when did you first read the book, and now that we've reread the book, what would be your star rating? So, who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Oh.
All right, go ahead, Deidre.
I am Deidre. I am from the channel Shade Tree Reads. What's up? I am reading this one for the second time. I'm pretty sure I gave it 5 stars. I read it. This was one of the first Black girls in a book that I've ever read. I don't know, if not the first Black girl. Like adolescent girl that I've ever read. So I gave it 5 stars the first time. This time around, I gave it 4 stars because some of the language didn't age too well, and I just couldn't overlook some of the dumb shit Winter did. I know that was the whole purpose, but I just couldn't. Some of it was just too far dumb. So, like, there's dumb stuff, and then there's just stupid, like, you can't be street smart and this dumb. Like, they don't go together in some of the instances. So I gave it 4 stars.
Okay. My name is Shane. My channel is Luxurious Blue. And the first time I read it was, I think, back in 2000. I had just gotten to America, and my cousin, who I was staying with at the time, she was in college, and she had that, and she had Fly Girl, and she also had that transphobic author's first novel. And I looked at all 3 of them, and I started reading all of them, and The Coldest Winter Ever was the one that really captured my attention. And at that time, I was really into it. I was like, ooh, who's this Midnight? He's so fine. Da, 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 da. I was like, I hope she gets with him and stuff. Da, 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 da. But I never got to finish it. And then a few years later, which is funny, at this church, like Secret Santa, this girl gave me The Coldest Winter Ever at church. Secret Santa. Secret Santa at church.
Wow.
That, and I also got a book on miracles, but I don't know where that book is, nor have I finished reading it. But I read it for the first time and I loved it, but I was kind of sad that she didn't get with Midnight. And I think I read it one more time, and then like 2 years ago I reread it again. And that's when I started seeing all of like, okay, I don't really like Midnight anymore. Winter, I see what everybody keeps talking about, how dumb Winter is. Like, I see how, like, strong and like, I love her will, and I love that she's just always thinking on her feet. Like, the girl can lie on her feet, and I'm just like, yo, I wish I could lie that easily. And just without remorse.
Yeah.
And I was just like, she just had a lot of problems. And now reading it again, I'm seeing even more problems, but I'm also kind of coming in with a little bit more nuance, with some more experience that I've had, where although like that's when I recently reread it, I thought I saw Midnight as a hotep, and now I'm kind of seeing him as I get what he's saying when he says that, okay, if you're running this business and you're being influenced by other people, like as if you're being influenced by women that are not, I don't know, that you're not making the who basically you're a smart man, you should be with a woman of similar caliber who can
Caliber, yeah.
help you support you to get you further, whereas she's not just like there, just being taken care of. I don't know. Basically, this is not the job where you should be able to you just splurge any money like this. But
Mhm.
yeah, that's basically That's it.
How many
I'm
did
just having.
you give it? You gave it
Huh?
5 stars this time? Well, yeah.
What
I
are you
don't know.
leaning towards?
I'm such an easy lay that I would give it 5 stars still anyway because I understand the bad parts. I'd probably give it a 4 stars now because I'm convinced that Sis Soldier is kind of a hotep herself, but that's aside from the point.
Yeah.
That's not a I'm gonna keep that.
Okay, Erica. So you're just introduce yourself, say your channel name, talk about your experience reading. Like, is this your first time? Have you read it before? And what star rating are you leaning towards giving it now?
Okay, so I'm Erica at The Broken Spine. This is my first time reading it. And what I haven't finished it. This week has been crazy with school and work. And so I'm about almost 50% through. And I would probably, at this point, I would probably give it a 4 where I am right now. So I was flying through it at some points. I was like, I must be missing something. So some things I had to go back because it was just so engaging. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I'm sorry that I had like this suburban upbringing that didn't allow this reading. So, but yeah.
Okay, so for me, I read this book the first time back in 2014, so about 6 years ago. And it was my first introduction to, and I guess, it depends on who you talk to, because I've seen this book classified as like street lit, urban, hood. I think it just depends. But it was my first introduction to that genre. And when I first read it, I mean, the book is so fast paced. It's easy to fly through it in a few days. Like the writing is, I feel like, simplistic enough. And the first time I read it, I thought, man, I'm gonna say this girl Winter is a trip. Like she's a nutcase. She's she's a nutcase. And this time reading it, I think it's no different. I gave it 4 stars then. I'm giving it 4 stars now. I think for me, it's one of those things where I think I was understanding Sister Soldier's intent with this one a little bit more than I did last time, if that makes sense at all. Yeah. So, what are some thoughts that you guys have about the book? What are some of your initial thoughts? Whether that's character, plot, writing style, like, what are your thoughts? I specifically really want to hear about Winter, to be honest with you.
Where to start?
Yeah.
Start from the beginning.
Well,
Now, if you haven't read it, I hope you don't mind, because it's kind of hard to talk about this book without spoilers in the mix. It's kind of hard to keep it spoiler free and kind of do a deep dive of it. So I don't think it takes away from the experience of reading the novel if there are spoilers, but just be forewarned that we will be talking about content that's not non-spoilery. Okay, sorry, DJ.
no worries. So in the beginning, like especially both well, not especially, both times I read it, I liked Winter in the beginning. I thought she was, the girl. The Sister Soldier wrote her to be like that girl that it girl, probably like your main video vixen or whatever. And I thought that she just really didn't have much personality outside of like money. I don't know if that's a personality type or not. I thought she was smart, but only in the context of getting money. So, I don't know. So yeah, I mean, I liked her for that, for what she was. But when she tried to, or whenever she was, like, I think she was a horrible friend. I don't even know that she was taught how to be a friend, really. So I can't fault her that much for that. But
I agree with that. I don't think she was taught how to be a friend at all. Not in the least bit.
Nobody in her immediate family with friends. Like her little siblings didn't have friends. Her dad had associates that he worked with, and her mom had like siblings or other family members. She didn't really have friends. She
didn't have friends either, because the way that Winter describes her and her mom at the beginning of the novel is like the trust, they couldn't trust anybody. So they just, I feel like that foundation for Winter was that lack of trust, because she was talking about how her and her mama would go to like the nail salon and they couldn't even like, they always had to look better than everybody else. So they had to carry themselves like they were better than anybody else, or like, people knew not to check them or to ask certain things about them because they were just so above everyone. So they didn't have friends. They didn't have friends at all. Nobody in the family had friends.
I can't be mad at her for it, because like you said, like I just said, she was never taught how to do that, or like socialize, or like even like what's the saying, you catch more flies with honey than you do with vinegar or whatever. She never learned how to keep people on her side. When she got them there, she just throw people away. And like, I don't know, I can't go too much further right now in the beginning. What do you think, Erica?
Winter, I will agree with that. Winter didn't know how to be a friend. And when you were talking about her mother, how old was her mother when she had her? Like 14 or something?
She was young. I can't remember her exact age, but she was young. They were close enough in age that Winter looked at her mom as more of like an older sister.
Yeah. And so I think that's a part of it, because she didn't have, because her mother didn't have a friend group so that she could show her how to even be a friend. Everybody was an associate and treated as such. Like when they moved out to Long Island, I'm not even gonna go that far, but when they were still in Brooklyn, when her father would have the business dealings, so to speak, it would be done in between the doors. So I understand, not bringing it into the house, so to speak, but she didn't have that interaction with other people, or positive interactions with other people, with her family, in order to know how to be a friend. And like the people that she considered friends, it were all, relationships are transactional anyway. So what you get out of them, and this was like super, her whole world is transactional. So what her girls can do for her, what her boys can do for her, that's all it is. And that's what she learned.
So. Yeah, she learned so much from Santiago, because that's one thing that I realized the last time I read it. She kind of was that son, that firstborn son that Santiago wanted, that he didn't get, because she was always like, I'm down to do everything, I'm down to learn the business, all that. But Santiago's not seeing her as like, oh, this is about, like, she could run my business. Because then also it's set in like, what is it, the late 80s, like mid 90s. So that's the time where we're not really seeing women as like, you can lead. Like, you just still have to be like a princess, sit on the side, be pampered. That's how that's one thing I loved about the story. Him as like this light skinned, loose curly haired man is like in love with this dark skinned black woman and pampering her and like throwing all this love and affection on her, and just like, although I mean he cheated on her, but still, it's like he's still there. Like, I love this woman, and I'm gonna take care of her. I'm gonna move out to Long Island. I'm gonna make sure she's not, she don't get. I'm gonna give her whatever she wants. But it's still like, I don't know. He didn't see her as somebody who could like. Well, first things first, she didn't care about leading nothing, but he couldn't see Winter as like somebody who could lead. He just wants her to marry off to some doctor, lawyer, not run with this, not stay in the lifestyle that they're living. And then also, I think part of the the reason why all of this is going on where they can get close to each other, because they're in a business where, like everybody said, like, you can't really trust people. So it's like, even if you're trying to get close to people and you're trying to make friends, everything is still like, you're not sure what you could share with everybody else, so you just don't share a lot of stuff with people. You don't know what everybody could use against you all the time.
And even within the family, they didn't share.
Yeah.
No, they didn't. But Erica, what was so crazy about it, and I'm glad you just said that. Sorry.
Oh, you're fine.
Going back to even what Shane said, like her dad wanting better for her, what bothered me about that whole situation is that even when it came down to her education, like he wanted quote unquote so much for her, but he was so stuck in a cycle wanting better for his child that he couldn't even help her break out the cycle. Because if that was the case, I feel like he would have told her, you need to have your backside in school, instead of like her going to school just enough so there wouldn't be a truancy issue on, and then she just stopped going, which nowadays definitely somebody would have hunted that family down. I think that time differences now, but that to me was kind of like, you see, that's the cycle that I wonder a lot of times if Sister Soldier was trying to point out, about him wanting better for her, but not having the skill set. No matter how big time of a drug dealer he was, he didn't even have the skill set to set his daughter up to be successful outside of the drug industry, because of the fact that small things like, you need to be educated, or you need to get an actual job. You need to stay away from what I'm doing. This is not what you need to do. Even at the end, it's like, how heartbroken as a parent would I be if I end up in jail to see my daughter locked up, to know that she just did the same thing I did? Like, I don't know. Sorry, Erica.
No, you're fine. And that was my issue. I was like, when they moved out to Long Island, I knew that it was like to be so that they could have a better life. And then I had in the back of my head, like, how long is this going to last? Because he just bought this house cash in hand. That is going to raise some red flags. Why, that was not smart.
Nobody had a legit job. Nobody.
Yeah. So that, and then I don't know, however long it was till he bought the Mercedes for her mom. But I'm like, these big purchases, just the big purchases, it's gonna, cash purchases, by the way, gonna flag something. Like,
I wonder if we know that because we're in 2020 now, because and so many people, big kingpins, have gone down in the way that Santiago went down in real life. So I wonder if that's kind of hindsight, because I thought about that too. Like, this is dumb. This is gonna end bad.
And I thought about that, and I was like, I don't know if this takes place in the 90s. Things were going down then with them, and so for you not to know that this life, I mean, he already knew that this was a dangerous life. So I can't say that was not known.
Yeah, because that's an interesting that is something that just crossed my mind, because it's like, if it's like 90s, early 90s, mid 90s, and I think he's been doing it for like a decade. I think what at one point Winter said that she, like, with her trying to get into doing selling drugs herself, she was like saying, if Santiago had like 20 years in,
Mm-hmm.
maybe I could do 20 years and be able to get out, instead of like just learn from his mistakes. But then I'm like looking at her like, I'm just looking at it now like, if he's been in this for 20 years, you should be smarter than this. You should have seen what everybody else was like doing around you in the mid 90s. Like, come on now.
Exactly. And that was part of my issue with him. Like, why couldn't he get like a smaller place? Why did it have to be like this grand?
Because he had already set up them. He had already created a beast of his own with those women. That's why he did what he did, because he had already created a nasty cycle of them having to live. And that's the reason why I feel like Winter failed, is because she was so used to living a certain lifestyle. She was trying to live well above her means, and that's Santiago's. That's his fault. That was his fault, because once you're introduced to that lifestyle, for him to have to pull back and downsize them and take away, because he didn't want to buy that car. He knew he shouldn't have bought that car, because he knew that the feds, when the letter comes back, or I forget how everything comes to pieces and you find out, it was what's his face at the very end. He told her how everything fell apart. When he moved, he knew that the feds and everybody, because the police chief that was supposed to be working on his behalf retired. So he knew when he moved them to Long Island that shit had already hit the fan. But the thing about it is that he had already set them up with a lifestyle, and he knew that he shouldn't have bought that car. He knew that car was a problem. That's why he kept stalling on buying her that car. He was like, she kept complaining, I'm supposed to get this car. I'm supposed to get this car. I'm supposed to get a car. And he knew he shouldn't have bought it, because he knew that he already had too much going on and too many people were watching him. The feds had already been watching him. But because of the fact that he created this certain lifestyle for them, this need to always have the latest cars, jewelry, dresses, shoes, everything, he couldn't take it away. And that's the same reason why Winter, when we were talking about this before we went live, when she went to that concert with Simone, why, if you know you have no money, why the hell you going out to go buy a limo or rent a limo? No. Girl, you ain't got no money.
You know, you ain't money. If you don't have any money, why are you gonna go drop $500 on a brand new outfit
that you gonna wear once, girl?
Yeah.
I always got on my nerves every time I saw her. She was always like, I'm tipping out to Bloomingdale's to get me a fucking dress that she's want to take it back, and I'm just like, girl, that don't make no sense.
I mean, I was so stressed reading that. I was like, wait, and I was like, okay, Erica, do not put a 2020 sensibility on this. But I was like, you are broke. You don't have 2 pennies to rub together. So,
no money. And what was so crazy about this whole situation is that Winter could hustle. I'm not gonna front about that, because when she was at that house, that girl was hustling.
That was
she flipped that shit into a business and did not have to work a lick, and was pulling in hundreds of dollars. But she didn't have a true business mindset. She was all about money. Yeah. And then when she got the quick money, it was like, well, I'm gonna blow this money so I can wear this outfit, because I know if I screw him, he gonna pay for me. And that's what she saw her daddy do. She knew that her mama would have sex to get what she wanted. So she felt like if she looked good enough to have sex, that she could get what she wanted and she could be laid up for the rest of her life. That's that.
She always fell back on that bedside manner, if you will. And,
New bedside manner.
and
New
it
bedside
worked for her.
manner.
I was telling Bay, I was like, it worked for her, but she like I said earlier, she never could get past that initial gift or whatever it was, that initial thing that she wanted from people. She never could continue, and that's why I got so mad at her with Bullet in the end. I don't know if is it too early to talk about it?
No. Oh no. Oh yeah, Erica did.
When she gets the abortion, I was like, okay, why are you lying to him about this? He knows what kind of girl you are. He knows that you were homeless pretty much. He knows everything about your family. He knows your mom's a crackhead. He knows everything. He knows that y'all done been here about a month and a half.
Crack to her mama.
Exactly. I'm like, why? She doesn't know that. She's not even. She thinks she's the smartest one in the room all the time. But in my eyes, I was like, "Girl, this is literally. You've been given everything. You've been working this hard, this whole damn book for. It's here for you. And don't lie to him. You noted in your mind that he had made friends with the doorman. She said that. I marked it. She said it. She was like, "Oh, he made buddy with the doorman. So why would you lie to him about having left the fucking hotel, ma'am?" Make it, or wherever it was, the not the hotel, the condo building. I'm like, that made no sense. And so when she lied to him about having left at all, and then she made dumbass lies about having gone shopping and didn't buy nothing. Winner. Girl, you didn't go shopping and didn't buy nothing? You didn't buy a keychain? You didn't buy nothing? Okay. So I knew it was, I forgot how it ended, to be quite honest. But when she lied to him, I was like, girl, why? Why?
That was she should have known. She should have known.
That ending killed me, though. No, that ending killed me when how he left her like that, though. I was just like, yuck. That's so bad.
He walked down the block. He walked down the block like he didn't even know her. I'm like, bro, how the hell you do that? He left her ass in the car with guns and drugs.
He just
walked away. He literally walked out because they were in a parking garage, were they not?
Oh, were they in the garage or on the side of the road? Because mom saw her.
Yeah, I think they were in the projects on the street because I think he was like giving money to somebody or collecting. I forgot exactly what he was doing. Then her mother ran up to the car and was like, "Winter girl, what you doing in the car?" And then,
hey girl,
your mama.
That was the stress.
But that is so crazy that he literally. I mean, I had to, y'all. I promise y'all, I probably reread that section a couple of times when I was finishing the book because I was like, this man literally just dropped, like literally just stopped in the middle of everything that was going on and walked away like, hell no. You not finna take me down. And I mean, he was smart. He set her ass up. He put everything in her name. Every last damn thing.
No, she did that. She thought she was doing smart by doing that. She thought she was smart.
She was dumb as fuck. That's dumb. That was so dumb because nothing was traced back to him. Absolutely nothing. And I'm not gonna. Bree was asking in the comments, "Are we gonna let the comments slide that we call her mama crackhead?" No, because her mama was a crackhead.
Crackhead.
Yeah, her mom literally. By the time that you leave, by the time that everything happened with her father, you could tell that something was wrong with her mom. Her mom, and first of all, her mom was super irresponsible because she should have just worked with the police instead of willingly going to jail. Because at that point, that's when they come in and they take your kids because your kids are underage. But the fact that she willingly, that pissed me off. She willingly got locked up and left 3 minors at home. No, 4 minors because it was the twins, Portia and Winter. You left all your kids at home to go to jail. And then I think the only thing I didn't like about the situation was that it seemed like it was kind of a gap. Like, at what point did her mom start doing crack? Because all of a sudden it just seemed like she was on crack. You could tell that she was on crack.
Yeah.
But it seemed like
I don't know.
That was my question too. When did that happen?
In my head, it happened when she was recovering from being shot. Like it was like the pills and then a progression, and that's just in my head.
Okay. That makes sense. Because for the longest time, I was like, okay, so they went back. She was staying with her sister, and then all of a sudden, she started doing weird stuff. Like when she shaved her head, I said, "Oh, she's on crack."
Yeah.
As soon as she shaved her head, I was like, "All right, she's on crack now." Like that made sense. But then, like the fact that that man was selling crack to her mama, and he knew that was her mama
the whole time. The whole time.
No, the whole time he was selling her crack the whole time. The entire time, and he knew that was her mama.
Yeah. Did y'all get mad at the maid, or did y'all think the maid just did what she had to do when she saw the writing on the wall?
Oh, I was mad at the maid. I was like, I would have been like, deuces, bitches.
Yeah, I probably would. Once Santiago went to jail, I probably would have just not come back to work.
Yeah, I would have. Yeah, I would have come back either.
I don't blame the maid for doing what she did at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I like the way they didn't have any money and they were like still paying the maid instead of doing anyway. But
I don't know what they thought. I guess they were just thinking Santiago was the man. He has a setup, but I guess they didn't, because they weren't in Brooklyn. They didn't know that everybody had got knocked at the same time, pretty much. So nobody was going to have money to, yeah. So I guess I'm saying that to say, like, okay, my husband's the kingpin. He's in jail. I'm immediately going to get a job. That's me. And it's like we're not. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, how you going to get money?
But she didn't care. And that I feel like that's I don't know if Sister Soldier was trying to make that point where it's like it was one of those situations where it's like, you know, as a Black woman, you have to be able to stand on your own 2 feet as well.
Right.
Because she became so codependent upon him and not having any sense of maintaining stability, that it's almost like as soon as he got locked up, like she mentally, she lost it. She just broke, because I felt bad for Winter at first, because Winter was like, Mama, like, how are we gonna get money? Like, where are we gonna live? Type of situation. And her mom was in complete denial. Your daddy's getting out of jail. And meanwhile, as readers, you're like, getting out of jail? That fool locked up for life. What you mean out of jail?
He's gone.
He's gone. He's locked up for life, man.
The thing about it,
ain't no way. Ain't no way he was getting out.
Winter had the foresight to be like, okay, so what are we going to do for money? She was mentally more mature and more responsible than her mother in that sense anyway. And I just found it interesting and heartbreaking that her mother didn't know how to do that. And I think that part of it is because she was a child mother and a child bride, and somebody from the time she was pregnant to before she was pregnant, somebody was taking care of her. And then from the time
sorry about that. Somebody was using the microwave.
And then from the time she was pregnant to whenever, somebody was taking care of her. So she didn't have a concept of how to do anything. But Winter was observant. And she was like, okay, so daddy's out here hustling, paying the bills. And somebody's got to do something.
She didn't even have a rainy day fund. Like,
nothing. They had nothing.
Nothing put away.
Nothing put away.
Santiago had a bank account which they froze.
Yeah, but like she didn't have, like, I'm talking about cash in the mattress somewhere. You gotta.
No, she did. They had money in the safe.
Sad money, yeah, mad money. That's what it's called. Yeah,
they had money in the safe.
It's not the whole safe, but I'm saying you as a woman, you have you have, you know.
That's how my mom gets things.
Yeah. I don't know. But see, now for me, I was a little upset because there was, okay, sure, she was a very young mother with Winter, but there's like 8 years between her and Portia. And she didn't learn shit in them 8 years. She didn't learn nothing. And then I forget how long it was between the twins and Portia. But she didn't learn nothing there neither, except for where to buy baby clothes. So I don't know.
How did you all feel? Because I feel like this is always an interesting question. How do y'all feel about Winter's treatment of sex and her perspective of sex?
I thought she was very, very sex shamey, like, and hypocritical. You said Sister Soldier, right?
Not Sister Soldier. How just Winter? Like, what do you feel about Winter's approach to sex and how she treated sex?
I'm all about that power, that P power. I think anybody, literally anybody, should be able to use their body to do whatever they need to do. However, I don't like it when you shame people for doing the very same thing you do. I don't know if we were already live by the time we were talking about this, but we just said something like, she was shaming, she called people hoes and sluts and whatever, and then turn around and literally do the same thing. Sleeping around just to get a hotel night, to get whatever it was. Sterling, like, I felt very bad for Sterling, but also he knew what he was getting into, I feel like.
But Sterling flipped it on her. And I forgot that happened, because when I was reading it, I was like, dang. I was like, because I'm in the same boat where, like, for sex workers and sex industry, like, I don't shame, I don't judge, because that's not my place. And I don't think that you should judge people for how they use their bodies or if they're involved in the sex industry. I don't think it's anybody's place to judge. But I feel like you said, it was hypocritical, where it was like, ho this, slut shaming this. And then she would turn around and do the same exact thing. And it was like, when she was using Sterling, I was like, damn, like, this fool. Like, she ain't talked to you in months, bruh, and she called you. But I mean, I think he was just happy to get a piece of ass, which I get. But what I was not expecting was when her bags was packed. I said, "Ooh." I said, "Ooh." I said, "Not you got kicked to the curb." And then the girlfriend was in there talking about, yeah, it's so nice that Sterling was taking care of his youngest cousin. I said,
and when that scene happened, I was like, I'm sorry. I said, you go, Sterling. I am on your side with this. And I was like,
but let me
just done a little bit better by Sterling. She may have been able to stay there on the couch with him and Judy in the bedroom.
She could have, had she worked the situation right. Had she worked it right.
If she had treated Sterling just a little bit better.
Yeah.
Because Judy, as plump as she was, what did she call her, fat? I think she called her fat or round or something, whatever. I was like, but you could have had a place to stay if you treated him better. You don't think Judy knew that wasn't his cousin?
Oh, Judy knew. Judy knew. She said, like, Winter knew that Judy knew.
Exactly.
Like, she said something, and she said it like, she said she dryly, and I was just like, oh, she know you trying to man, which is interesting, because because let me tell you, Winter, which is interesting. I would like to know a little bit more about Winter's mother, because I don't think we ever Winter's mother's name. Oh my gosh, did I get myself?
No, I don't think we did either. I don't think we ever learned her name, did we?
I don't think so.
In the 50% that I got through, no.
I don't remember her mother's name at all.
I don't think they mentioned
And
it.
then
I don't think they mentioned it.
additionally, because I don't think she and Santiago never got married officially, right?
Oh,
No.
is that what it was?
Oh my gosh,
I don't think they did.
Hmm.
Yeah,
People
I don't
saying
think they got married either because I just realized that when they were talking to the lawyer, and the lawyer called her Miss Santiago. He didn't say Mrs. Santiago. He just said Miss Santiago, and I was just like, oh,
huh.
so she says so they're not married. They're just common law with a lot of. He didn't bother to marry
Oh.
her, so I was like, okay.
Mm.
Where was that?
I don't even know.
Oh, that's interesting.
Um.
It was in the lawyer's office because I know he said like, and he was breaking down all the different like cases and things that he'll have to deal with, and he said in Miss Santiaga's situation, and he wasn't talking about Winter, he was talking
Talking
about
about
the
the
wife
mother.
herself. She just
Yeah.
gotten out of jail. Yeah, he was talking about like he just had to pay a whole bunch of money and all that,
Yeah.
and I was just like, okay.
Dang.
I
So
get
what?
cut off.
Don't say was she married to Santiago, the one that had the son for him?
You know what? I don't know.
I think
But
that was
she
just
had
the kid
money.
on the side. Yeah.
But she had money though. But she had money. That was the craziest thing because when Winter saw the two of them at the prison, the mama was dressed nicely and so was the baby boy.
Mhm.
So makes me wonder, had he had money set up with her, that because he was having an affair with her, it would have never been traced. I don't
I don't know,
know.
but you know how they ended with the letters from Santiago to Winter, that how that was supposed to go. I don't want to spoil everything, but do you?
Yeah, how the transactions were supposed to be set up.
Yeah. So
I'm
I'm
that was
trying to
pretty.
find that part where they come up on her in the jail because I thought her last name was Santiago. Did she say? Don't say. She only said her first name, or she traced her by the prison number. You remember?
By the prison number and
by
the
the
prison.
number.
Yeah, by the prison number. Yeah,
It wasn't Santiago.
It wasn't.
They didn't have the same last name.
Okay, but the little boy had Santiago Jr. on his bracelet.
Yeah, on his bracelet. Yeah.
So, but I think they did get me. Well, the Miss, I pulled it up on the Kindle, and it's spelled MS. So, sometimes people say, I don't know. I'm just going according to how it's done in my family. That we refer to sometimes married couples instead of Mrs. We'll say Ms.
But
MS.
you know,
but I don't know.
But there was no mention. There was no mention of. There was no mention of marriage, and but that's funny though that there was no mention of
a wedding. There would have been a wedding pictures. We didn't hear about any of that.
We didn't hear any of that. I don't think.
Older is Santiago than her mother. Anyway, I got the impression that he was considerably older.
Well, I would give him 10 to 15 years older. Yeah. But I could be reaching with that. But I'm only thinking that because she was so young.
Yes.
She had Winter. Yeah. That I'm thinking that he has at least 10 years on her.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too.
Wait a minute, 1424?
What? I mean, come on now. We know we're hanging out.
I'm just saying, like, Sister Soldier, what you doing here with that?
I mean, that's probably why she didn't. That's probably why she didn't define it. That's exactly why she didn't say nothing. But you could kind of get that characterization that he was older, and that would make sense as to why her mother was incapable of taking care of herself, because if she was that young getting pregnant and she grew literally, I mean, she's a child having a child, getting spoiled like that and thinking that this is a norm, that relationship, the dynamic in which he worked was a norm. It's no wonder why as soon as he got locked up, she instantaneously was like, okay, well, he's going to come back. Because even when Winter came home that night, it was like, her mom just didn't even have her shit together then. Like, I feel like that's the point where you go into, like Deidre said, you go into critical thinking mode, like, okay, we just gonna assume that this man ain't coming out. So now what are our next steps? And the next steps would have been you take everything out the house. They left everything in the house and the Fed sees everything.
Yeah.
And so long as it's in the house, that is theirs. And
yes, it's the Feds.
And did they not know about the safe with the money?
It was pure
because
foolishness.
They had days.
Yeah,
they did before the Feds came back. They had a lot of time, and I feel like it was maybe even a little bit longer before the Feds came back to start doing the digging and taking stuff, because the Feds didn't really come to see stuff until Winter's mother got locked up.
Yeah,
and then it was like,
and that was the mistake, because if Winter's mother hadn't got locked up, I don't think they would have been back as soon.
I think it would have been acceptable when they came and they were like, do you want to cooperate or do we have to come back with a warrant, if they had left that night. Like, they hadn't left, they hadn't done nothing. Like, I think that I personally would have rather seen that than her just let herself get locked up, because at least she was giving her family a fighting chance by running, taking whatever you can, get some stuff, pawn it, get 2 states over before you worry about,
even the Feds gave her an opportunity to like get her shit together.
I think it was just too naive to understand what was happening.
And I mean, like, do you just cooperate with us? And this is while she's still in the house. Just cooperate with us, and everything will be fine. And if she had just cooperated, I'm not saying that they would not have come back to the house and seized stuff, but at least she would have had a fighting chance.
She would have
get out.
She would have, because they didn't want her. At that point, when they got him, it wasn't about them anymore. They didn't care. They got who they wanted. And it was just like, he put them in a really bad position, because if he truly, he's dealing with the family of 5 women, if he wanted to give them a fighting chance, he should have set up a plan to say, if anything was to ever happen to me, this is what you need to. That's like anybody in any situation. Like, my mom told me, if anything ever happens to me, my mom's not a drug dealer. She just said, if anything was to happen to me, here's exactly what needs to be done. X, Y, and Z. This needs to be sold. This is what you need to put away. This is for you. This is for baby. Like, he didn't even have a plan. He didn't have a plan set up for them without having to go through all of these people. He needed to just have a plan for his family to say, if things go wrong, this is what I need you to do. This is what you need to do. Because he knew that if he got locked up, he knew he wasn't going to come out. I don't know whether he thought like he was going to have, because to me, when she went and she saw her dad in jail, right? He was very content. He was like, it's like being with family. And I'm like, bro, what?
Yeah.
Like, you're real comfortable. And to me, when he said that, it made me feel like he already knew he wasn't getting out, because when he killed 2 other people, it was like, well, you knew that she was going to do life anyway. So you have nothing to lose at this point. So for me, as a father and as a common law husband, whatever, because we don't know if they were married, he failed his family. And I feel like that goes back to that, because he was so stuck in a cycle, he didn't know how to help his family get out of the cycle. And then it kind of just goes back to everything at the end, where you are left looking at the family after all this crap happens, and you're like, ain't not a damn person learned anything. Ain't nobody learned nothing. Nobody learned shit. So
I think he did sort of. Well, he failed his family for sure. Yeah. And I wonder if it was just a shortcoming of his environment, because he had that lawyer on retainer. And he had given money to Midnight to do whatever. Yeah. And he had given Dulce her whatever money to give whoever, he did stuff. He just didn't prepare them. Like, he never had a conversation with anybody, sound like Winter or the mom.
And somebody said he didn't prepare them for an exit strategy. And I was thinking, an exit strategy, an escape plan, whatever you want to call it. He didn't
prep them
for that. He didn't set that up. Granted, yeah, he had the money in the safe. Granted, he had the bank accounts. Why he didn't? I mean, you're doing something illegal. You've probably seen other people taken down. Why didn't you get like offshore accounts that couldn't be frozen and people could get their money, whatever? And that's just, I mean, I don't know. It just, the whole thing was, granted, he had street smarts. He had a good business going, but he really didn't have like good business sense.
No, he didn't. He didn't have common sense at all, because even with him paying that retainer fee, and I think this is the question of how well does the Black community know the legal system? Because anybody, well, not everybody knows, but what people should know is that when police departments pick you up or whatever the case may be, okay, especially when you like a big drug pen or whatever the case may be, they're going to try to hit you with every charge that they can get you. Every charge that they can hit you with in the book, they're going to hit you with. So even with Santiago paying that retainer fee to me, it was like, bruh, they wasn't just going to get you on a charge of drug dealing. Like, that wasn't going to be the transportation of drugs was definitely not going to be the only charge that they hit you with. So this 50 grand retainer fee or 50 grand that they put off to the side to have a retainer fee to me was pennies, because he didn't even know, he didn't have enough book education. I agree with you. He had street sense. He really did. He had street sense. But he didn't have enough book education to realize that little bit of money that he was calling himself having for a retainer fee wasn't going to do anything. It wasn't going to do nothing for him. Like, when that lawyer broke down how much it was going to cost just to handle a couple of charges, and then her mother's charge, and then to charge them to look for the kids, it was like, ain't no way. Like, everybody just needs to cut their losses, take their L's, and say, okay, well, we can go visit him while he's locked up.
Basically,
keep money on the books, like, because at that point, it was like there was no getting him out. There was no getting him out of that situation at all. And I think I saw somebody in the comments like, he made things worse, I think, because he did tell Winter and them, stay out of Brooklyn. You got no business going to Brooklyn. However, he got to the fire himself when he was put into a position that he felt like the only way he could keep his wife or his common law wife under lock and key was to buy her that car. That was his fatal flaw to me. I think he should have never bought that damn car. I think that car, because when he went to go buy that car, and she went with him to go look for the car, and he had to make transactions, and she got shot in the midst of all of that. He had to go back to Brooklyn to handle the fact that somebody shot her. Like, it just, him and Winter both added to the issue, because he should have never took his wife to Brooklyn to go get that car, and Winter should have never took that car to go to Brooklyn to show off. Like, it was just,
it was a whole mess. But you know what? I did not expect. I didn't expect his wife, or common law wife, however we want to refer to her, to get shot. That came as a surprise to me. And also when they were at the hospital and his buddies were standing guard, so to speak, I was like, wait a minute, what are we doing here? And how is this even, again, I'm bringing in 2020 sensibility here, because that would never be allowed
Yeah.
in a hospital for
With the guards.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like your buddies ain't gonna come in here and stay on guard.
Yeah.
We already have security. So no ma'am, no sir, no indeed nobody.
Have y'all seen Power? Have y'all seen that show?
No.
I still haven't seen it.
Okay, well I can't really compare, but I feel like Santiago is like a poor man's Ghost. I feel like Ghost did what we want Santiago to do as a kingpin in New York for his family. I don't know. What do you think, Shane? Now I haven't seen the most recent season, so I don't know what happened. I'm basing off the first and second season, but
Y'all, I can't get into my wine. That's a problem.
yeah. Work it out.
Oh goodness gracious! We know that's a problem, Erica. We know.
I think you would like it if you like this type of. I mean, you watch The Cartel. I'm sure you can.
Yeah.
Cartel.
Cartel is good.
If you watch Empire, it's
I
not.
watch Empire.
It's if you are entertained by Empire, you will be entertained by Power.
Okay.
I think it's even a little bit better. Quality for sure. I think the acting's better, but yeah, if you get a free trial, watch it. It's. I think somebody from that team has read this book. And
probably. Yeah.
But we need this book specifically adapted into something.
We do, and
I can see that.
I think it needs to be picked up. I think people have been begging for this book to be picked up as something, and it. I mean, rightfully so. I don't know how many people who are watching now realize how pivotal this book is to the Black community, and how many people who actually are in jail pick that book up. I have met plenty of people who are who have served time and have said that, they read The Coldest Winter Ever, and then that put them on to reading, more street lit. Like I've had, working at the library, I've had people come in, and Black men, who've come to the desk and they're like, "Yo, where your hood books?" I was like, "Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I can." And I had one guy specifically, like, he told me, he was like, I've read that book, The Coldest Winter Ever, and I said, I'm not surprised, but it's super, super important, and I feel like a lot of people have wanted it to be adapted, but here we are. This was written in '99, and it's 2020. And I'm glad that we're finally getting a sequel March of next year, like an official sequel next year. Yeah, y'all didn't realize that?
No, I didn't.
Somebody say something about it. Somebody said something. Sorry. Somebody said something. Sorry. Somebody said something about it. I don't know who it was. I heard it from somewhere.
Yeah, the official sequel comes out March next year.
My bookstore that is in a predominantly, and when I say a predominantly white area, like I can count like the Black people. And we have all of the books. Like The Coldest Winter Ever is on a table, prominently displayed. Buy one, get one 50% off. And I was like, what? I'm surprised by this. And we have a lot of Sister Soldier books on the shelf. And I don't know how that happened, but I'm not going to argue about it.
Have y'all read any of the other books? I'm not you, Erica, but have you read any of the other things?
I started A Deeper Love Inside a while, like after I checked it out from the library, but I never finished it. And my fault for that, because what a lot of people, and I made this mistake, is that when you go in to read Portia's story, I think a lot of people have this expectation that it is a setup like winter story, and it's not at all. It's very different from winter story, so I think people don't enjoy it as much, and I think that people got tripped up because they thought it was a Coldest Winter Ever sequel, and it's not truly a sequel. I always say I feel like the Coldest Winter Ever, Portia's story, and then the three Midnight books are all companion novels, not necessarily anything like sequel wise. But I'm hoping to read it. Portia's book is hard to find in print.
Yeah. I read Midnight.
What's that one called? Is it called Portia?
Say it, Erica?
Is it called Portia? Or is it
No,
called
it's called A Deeper Love Inside.
Oh, we got that.
Santiago story. Yeah.
I haven't read anything about Portia. Are we gonna go? Is there a book about the twins?
Mm-mm.
I did hear there's a Coldest Winter Ever actual Coldest Winter Ever sequel coming out. I just recently heard that, and I was just like, "Are you serious?"
Yeah,
but I haven't
Googled March
it.
Next year. Yeah, March of next year.
That Midnight book was interesting. I am the first one in the 3-book, whatever. I didn't even realize there was 3 books out by him.
Yeah, it's 3 books in a Midnight Story. Yeah, it's 3 of them.
I'm interesting. I'm excited to listen to what y'all have to say or think about that one. It was.
No, because actually,
say this real quick. I'm sorry. I'm on my job's website because I had to see who had it. And all the bookstores that are in the white neighborhoods have it. I mean, when I say white neighborhoods, they're all the wealthy, not just white neighborhoods, but the ones that bring in like the tech sector in my area. So all the tech people making big bucks is in those bookstores. That's all I have to say. So.
No.
But go ahead, Shane.
No, because Ashley asked earlier if we've seen anybody else review like the Coldest Winter Ever. And I haven't seen anybody, but I know I saw like some years ago, I was like looking to see like if there's anybody reviewing it. And I came across somebody's review of Midnight. And it has me like so intrigued to like reread it because when I initially read it, I was just excited to read it. I was excited to read about Midnight's perspective. And now I'm like, now I'm feeling a change about him. And it's really made me also think about the book itself because, and especially what that girl was saying about him in the book, because he was real critical of Americans, of American culture, and just Black Americans, period. And that also speaks to the discussion of Black immigrants coming to America and having a lot of critiques about Black Americans.
Yep.
And yeah, he did a lot of that in the book. And that kind of played out itself in the Coldest Winter Ever a little bit too. Not as prominently, but it was still there where you kind of see it as like, he just felt better than Black Americans. You know, he was just like, I'm working smarter than them, but it's like you still doing a lot of the same things that they're doing. So what are you talking about though? So,
and that was like one of my issues with Midnight is that he was like high and mighty, so to speak, but yet he was still doing the same thing. And he was like, well, I got plans, but why are you doing, what is your plan? How does this fit into your plan?
The money. The fast money, Erica.
I understand that, Deidre. I'm just like, this does not fit into your plan, because what if you didn't get away? Then
he said he was smart. He said he didn't leave nothing in his house, there was nothing in his car. He wasn't doing none of the drugs, so he knew he was gonna be all right. I'm just BSing, but he really did feel like he was smarter than Santiago a little bit. I feel like.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because when you read Midnight itself, it's like, and that's why, because somebody said that it was in the comments, they said it's boring and it dragged on. And people have had that critique about the Midnight books. And I've watched reviews from, not reviews, interviews with Sister Soldier where she's like, I did all this research for the book and all that stuff. And I'm like, I can see you did a lot of research going into this book and you did a lot of work to, I think, almost improve her writing in a sense, which I didn't feel like there was anything too wrong with her writing for the Coldest Winter Ever, but I guess because it was almost so simplistic in a way that it was just kind of like, but I'm like, it's very authentic to Winter's voice, so it made sense how you wrote it. So to kind of come into Midnight and she just kind of made it so extremely literary. Like it was very literary, and then people also felt like it was unrealistic because he did a lot of stuff that, like, you are a 14-year-old boy doing unrealistic things that it almost feels like he's kind of like James Bond or a superhero, but he's supposed to be this realistic person. And I'm like, I want to read it again just to really dissect all of that because you really, yeah. But at some point, I almost could believe it because it's nice to also see like a young Black boy be extraordinary and amazing, even though it's just nice to see him be extraordinary. So it's like I'm willing to kind of suspend disbelief just to let him play, just to let all this play out.
Yeah.
And also, yeah, we'll leave that for when we talk about Midnight because I have some thoughts. I'm already having thoughts, and I still haven't read the book because I'm going off of memory.
Are we reading Portia next? We're reading.
Yeah, Portia's book is next.
Okay.
But you know, for me, Dana brings up a really good statement here. Like, will the sequel hold up? And that's a very big question that, we won't really know until we read the book because of the fact that she's right. I mean, Coldest Winter Ever was written in 99. It is very authentic to 99. Even reading it now in 2020 is certain parts, like we've been saying, we're looking at it from a 2020 perspective. So certain things were like, it wouldn't go down like that. Whereas 10, 20 years ago, it was a reality. But there's a lot more conversations happening now. Not saying that this is still not a reality for some people, but there are aspects of it that are dated. So I don't know how she can write to the authentic voice of Winter from a 99 Winter to now a 2021 perspective. And if, like Shane, like you're saying, and I think a lot of people are saying right now, like in the comments, is that like Sister Soldier is very much strong about her views and her perspectives, which is why she wrote herself into that book, which I had never seen. This was my first experience ever when I read this book. It was my first experience ever reading a book where an author directly wrote themselves and created themselves into a character. And it was a means for her to express what beliefs she had about the Black community and how she thought the Black community should function. And I wonder too, just thinking about this statement that Dana has made, whether, and then Shane, what you just said about the Midnight books being very much literary and her probably going through and analyzing where she stands on certain topics and subjects. I wonder if she will do the same thing with this one, which will be so untrue to Winter's character because that's not who Winter is as a person. Winter is very much about, even at the end, you see Winter locked up and Winter's like, shit, I mean, we all locked up now. And I was like, bro, what? Bro, what? like you would think damn, I did not want to end up in jail. Like I gotta get my stuff. Winter was very much like, I mean, it's home. I mean, if I was at home, it wouldn't be home because ain't nobody home. Everybody locked up with me. And I'm like, so I don't know how she would have to write Winter as that same person. I don't think she can't get away with writing Winter as in like our beliefs and values that we hold now in 2021 because it wouldn't be authentic to her. So I'm interested.
But I'm curious. Okay, so I just did the math. So to be 25, almost 25 years, So Winter, when she goes to jail, is what, 19?
She was like
18.
17 or 18.
She's
She's
18.
Okay.
Like,
she's 18. Yeah, I think she's like
Okay.
18.
she gets
So
sentenced to 15 years in jail.
okay. So she did. You said she did 15 years in jail.
She has to do 50. She got a 15-year
We
sentence.
don't know how much she did. She had already done like 7 by the time we see her at the end.
Yeah,
Of
she was in her 20s when we see
So
her.
that, if she did 15, that would make her 33.
Mm-hmm.
So if we add on another 5, so she'd be 40, basically, close to it.
Mm-hmm.
I think
And so
Yeah.
I don't think that she can write her as, I think that she would have to come out and write her older, not necessarily wiser, but having experienced some things. Because in the book, she does talk about she can't, about having sex with other women and what goes on, that she's not down with that. So I would venture to say that she would have to include something like that in how she has turned around or not. But
I think she's gonna end up. I don't know. My theory is that Winter will not have matured much because
Nope.
why
I
would
don't
she?
think so.
She's in the jail with all her friends and all her peeps. She's not gonna mature
You have
much.
the same mentality.
Yeah, I think that she might not want to go back to jail though. So I don't think she's gonna get out and go right back into trouble. I think a good career for her would have been a cosmetology because that money is kind of like fast the same way that drug dealing is. Maybe she'll do that.
And when she had her side hustle at the home, I thought that she was going to go that way. It just made perfect
Let me
sense.
tell you.
Let me tell you. Please tell me, Shay.
Let me tell you. One thing, because that's one thing I keep I keep forgetting to say. Like her mother. That's why I would love to know how her mother grew up. Like what was her mother before Santiago, moving all the way up to Santiago, because I realized in my exploration of the femininity and alpha male communities on YouTube, I've come to understand what hypergamy is, and her mother was dropping a lot of hypergamous advice of like you have to work your femininity and do all this stuff to bring a man in, and you have to make sure that he feels like a king, but you have to support him and all that stuff, but also you also have to know how to which is that was why her mother that's why her mother ended up getting the car and getting shot in the face, because what Winter said that her mother taught her that she's not really supposed to do is you're not supposed to try to boss up on your man and tell him this is what I want, these are the things that I want. You're supposed to like you got to play it like mad covert. It's got to be real covert where you're like you got to make him feel like he's in control, and she decided to be the one to take control. That's also why Midnight was saying like he's letting women, like Santiago's letting women control how he does business, and he's not the one taking charge in all this. But her mother was dropping basically a lot of what a bad bitch does in order to be taken care of, and like that's what Winter was learning from her mother. But also in oh my gosh, I just forgot what. There's so many thoughts about this hypergamy and Winter and all the stuff that I kind of forgot a little bit. Okay, go ahead. I'm gonna come back to it. I'll remember it.
But no, I think I think you're right. I think that's interesting. That is what she taught her. That whole you keep yourself together a certain way to attract a man. And but
And to manipulate him at the same time,
and to
too.
manipulate him because like you said, like her mother did end up showing her true colors when it came to that car, and she was never supposed to do that.
Yeah.
She was never supposed to show. She was the one that was trying to pull the strings. That was never supposed to be her role. But it just blew my mind that it was all of this over a freaking car. Over a car. That shit blew my mind that literally I feel like this car was the pinpoint of everything going damn downhill, because had she not pushed him to get that car, she never would have got shot. He never would have ended up back in Brooklyn, and Winter never would have took that car out and met up with Bullet to begin with.
And I think that it would have taken longer, perhaps, maybe not that much longer, but a little bit longer for them to take them down.
Yeah, it would have. It would have taken a little bit longer for everything to play out, but because they were making those moves, they were too out in the open, and he knew that.
Yeah.
And that was what's so crazy, is that, you know, I guess my mind right now is, now I'm circling back to this and I'm wondering, what was it about her in that moment where he couldn't, and I'm not saying playing to gender roles, but just in a partnership, at what about the situation could he have not put his foot down and said, no, I'm not doing it. It's not smart right now. It's not a good financial decision. We need to play it. We need to keep it low key. Like, what about her car could he not say no to? And go ahead.
It was definitely her, and and I think he knew that if he continued to say no, continued to put it off, that she would tell her boys and girls back in Brooklyn that Santiago ain't shit, and to, like, basically to flip the tables on him.
But I don't feel like she had that much pull, though. That's the crazy thing about it, is that I feel like she had pull when it came to him, but I don't feel like she had pull like that in the streets. Because once he went down, if she had that much pull in the streets, when he went down, it wouldn't have hurt them as much. As soon as he got locked up, they became irrelevant. So in my eyes, it was like, that to me is almost a plot hole. To me, it felt like a plot hole, because he could have literally said to her, I'm not doing it. And even because if he valued that so much, that whole situation, or if there was something about her, I don't know. It's just that with him having another child with another woman and them becoming irrelevant, I still don't understand what it was about her where he knew that he had no business doing that. Because then I think someone said it earlier, it makes it feel like he's almost responsible for all of it. Like, he's the one who caused, so like Mandy said, the domino effect. Like, he's the one who caused all of this shit to happen. And as much as we want to blame Winter for a lot of stuff, it starts with him. It starts with him. So I don't know. It's just this weird. That one transaction to me never, even rereading it now, it never made sense to me at all. It never made sense.
I think Long Island was a mistake. I think maybe getting out of the direct neighborhood where he was doing most of his business was smart, but like, I think Long Island was too far away from the office. I don't know. I think, to me, that's where that was a mistake, because you can't keep like somebody kept saying, you can't keep your eyes on all the pieces on the chessboard when you're
so far away.
They're so far away, and you can't even get there quickly. You know what I'm saying? Like, she had to take several. Did she have to take more than one train? I don't remember, but she had to take a very long. It was a long commute to get back to Brooklyn or get back to the office or whatever, because she had a hard time getting people to come pick her up and everything.
Brooklyn to Long Island is a long commute. That is a long commute, making from Brooklyn to go all the way out to Long Island. And thinking about where they were, I mean, they were in the burbs of Long Island, so I know she was making a hell of a commute to make it to go that far. Yeah, so I mean,
because it's
go ahead, Shane.
no, because it's so different from Brooklyn. Because well, in the city, period, we have public transit all over the place. You could just walk outside, get to the bus. Where it's like she had to walk miles, which that didn't compute for me because I'm so accustomed to the public transit right here. But it's like it makes so much sense, and so it's just like you have to have a car just to get in between the two, and yeah, it did not compute, and it didn't make sense.
And you're right, Deidre. I mean, he went to Long Island. He didn't even keep it on the low. I mean, what do you look like? First of all, just naturally, we know that Black families moving into wealthy, predominantly white neighborhoods is going to cause people to look at you sideways, regardless of what you're doing legally or illegally. That's just the nature of the beast. Welcome to America 101. So that once again brings me back to this street smarts versus book smarts, where he had enough street smarts to try to pull himself out of the situation because he knew that the block was getting hot. But he didn't have enough book smart to think like, we're a Black family, we got money. What do I look like moving to? Like what how would this raise eyebrows if we move into a predominantly white, wealthy community as an all Black family? Like people gonna look at you sideways. So of course, even your neighbor's gonna be watching you at that point. So it's just like it's one of those that go back to that saying like common sense is not so common, because as much as street marts as he had, that man no common sense, and neither did Winter.
Yeah, like I just think he was like a moment of keeping up with the Joneses. Long Island. I don't know if Long Island is like a sought after. I don't know.
The burbs, Long Island. I only say this is because I'm from. I was born in Long Island.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends because you have, well, first of all, like Shane was saying, like public transit is not going to be the same as if like you looking at the city. But I mean, if you in the burbs in Long Island, yeah, it's nice. Yeah. It could be real nice. But I mean, it's like any place where there's certain parts of Long Island that are not affluent communities.
Well, I guess to your point that you just made, like, what if they had gone to Harlem? Would that have been a step down, or would that have been a lateral move? Like, can you go to a more area where you won't stick out quite as much, but it's still like a move? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. He could have moved. Shit, he could have moved to a different borough.
I don't think. Yeah, I'm in Brooklyn. No, because I think Harlem, if he moved to Harlem, I feel like Harlem, because it's so predominantly Black, at least at that time it was still predominantly Black, I'm guessing there would be other drug dealers there and it would be their turf. And for him to move in, that might have been, they would have seen as like, what's he doing in our neighborhood? Because it can't be that he'll just move in quietly and ain't nobody gonna know. People are gonna be like, yo, what the hell is Santiago doing in Harlem now? Is he trying to take over? Then they would have came for him.
That makes sense.
Black ass to a different state.
Go to another.
Completely.
I agree.
Go to Connecticut.
What about Manhattan? Could he have gone to Manhattan? It didn't seem like it was that far. Like, as far as, I mean, I'm sure there's areas where it would take you a long way to get,
No, I don't think you could go to Manhattan because Manhattan is predominantly white people. And for him to move to Manhattan, and yeah, that would have raised just as much red flags as Long Island.
I guess I'm just trying to get him to, if you're going to raise some flags, at least be able to run back to your office quickly, I guess. I just think Long Island was just way too far.
Long Island was a really bad move.
Yeah,
it was. Moving to Long Island and trying to keep up with the Joneses. Maybe if he would have moved to Long Island and put them in a smaller space.
Yeah,
and not as of affluent. I mean, but because the thing about it is like y'all coming out the projects.
Yeah, came so high.
If you coming out the project, a nice, maybe what, 3-bedroom.
Condo?
3-bedroom, 3.5 bathroom house.
Yeah.
You don't need to move to a mansion when you come out the project in a predominantly white neighborhood.
First of all, whenever a person of color moves into a mansion.
That's what we just talked about. We just talked about that. We just talked about that. You know that don't look right. You know that don't look right.
There's a problem. And you know they screaming. Something is wrong.
Yes. Your white neighbors are not gonna allow you to move in peacefully.
No.
Mm-mm.
They did. And furthermore, it could have been their neighbors that called.
It could have been.
I think it would have been hotter that they had like maybe gotten the top floor of the projects for themselves. I think that would have made
Yeah.
I mean, you could
more
have
sense.
done
Like,
that nice.
yeah.
What Deidre was saying about power and Santiago being like a poor man's ghost, it truly is, because y'all brought up a really good point. Because how I saw Santiago, because of how Winter saw Santiago, I was seeing him as like this big deal kingpin in Brooklyn. But I'm also like, but you're not smart enough to build a legitimate business and wash your money and do all that stuff. You're not smart, like what you saying that he could have moved to Manhattan. He really could have did what Ghost did and moved to Manhattan
Yeah.
and run a business and become legit. But he didn't have that. He was just doing drugs and living in this building, and he wasn't saying, you know what, let's start a business. Let's start laundromats, liquor stores, something, so we could start washing the money. We could start building other things so that I can move somewhere, have legit money, so that the feds aren't like they not questioning where my money's coming from. Make those moves, but that's not what he did.
He didn't even like encourage, like Ashley said, he didn't even encourage Winter like to get like a little after school job or like at least make some C's or something. Like he never said to her, to my knowledge, like, I don't want you to end up like me and your mom.
No.
He never said that.
Nope.
That.
He never said that.
I don't know. He didn't want her to end up like that. Maybe he thought he was giving her a good life, and I don't know, but he really just he just did. Something.
I just have to say this. Kay said not the penthouse of the projects.
I'm just saying, if you're the kingpin, why not? Why not?
But you know, what's crazy about that is that Deidre, I think he did. I think he thought that he was doing something for Winter. I think he thought by telling her, I want you, which is so crazy, instead of telling Winter, baby girl, I want you to be able to run your own successful business, or I want you to, choose a profession outside of what I'm doing. No, the first thing he said was, I want you to marry someone. So it was never about her building herself up as a Black woman. It was about what can you, and he just kept that up. Like, I want you to marry well, not I want you to do well for yourself, which is why Winter couldn't even look past, and it always blows my mind every time I get to that last section and I think about how she was quick to jump in the bed with Bullet because he was going to be able to financially provide for her. That she couldn't even think about the fact that he was the one who set her daddy up. Why are you laying with somebody who is one of the reasons why you're in the situation you're in right now? How could you? But then I think, well, even your daddy was telling you to lay up with someone who can financially provide for you. And I'm like, that vicious cycle. He could have wanted Winter to do better, but he didn't have the skills to teach her how to do better at all. And he didn't have the skills, but he wasn't trying either. And I always look at this in like comparison to how, because I always tell people, I work in a lower income community, okay, that's predominantly Black as a librarian. I have parents come in and they'll bring their kids in. Parents have never really come to the library like that. They don't read like that, but they know somewhere in their soul that if their child reads or if they introduce their child to books, that'll open up different opportunities for them. When they come in, they don't know where to start. They don't know what to choose, but they know that that's the thing to do. Her father couldn't even do that. He couldn't even say, well, I don't know how to help you do better, but maybe if I encourage you to go to school, maybe they could help you. Maybe there's a counselor that could put you on the right path or teach you a skill set that maybe I can't give you because even I don't know what to do. I don't have the skills to teach you how to do it, but maybe I could link you up with someone who could. Like, I was so pissed at her father by the end of the book. I was pissed at her, but I was even more pissed at her dad because her daddy ain't shit.
No,
Mm.
and he didn't even, and I think we said this earlier, but he didn't even know where to start to even begin to tell her, go to school and get your education, and figure things to help her figure things out. And mm, so when you have that vicious cycle of parents not knowing what to do. And my mom even said this when she worked at a school. The kids would come in for their interviews, and they would be in jeans and a t-shirt.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "This is a job interview. This is not how you come for a job interview."
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, when you saw their parents, they didn't go to job interviews dressed either.
Yeah.
So if you don't have anybody to teach you
Yeah.
just simple life basics, then that
Yeah.
then that becomes
Yeah. It becomes cyclical. But I
yeah,
do think parents parents have to want to break, even if they don't have the skills. Parents have to want to truly
yeah,
break that cycle. They do,
yeah,
because they got to be willing to put their kids in positions where it's like, I don't know how to teach you. I don't know.
Mm.
I remember the day that I had a 12-year-old, because we were doing because I'm zoned to work with the with a middle school and a high school. And I remember a 14-year-old, or was she 12? Was she 12 or 14? She was middle school, so she had to be 12. I remember we were just asking them, like, what are your expectations of a library? Because people have very different perspectives of libraries, no matter where you go. And this 12-year-old said to me, she said, well, can y'all do something where, like, you teach us, like, about stuff that's important? Like, for example, like, I know that credit is important, but I don't know what it is. And, like, every time I ask my mama, she won't tell me. So, like,
Mm.
that to me is kind of like, I don't want to say, like, that's her mother not, like, maybe her own mother doesn't understand the concept of having credit. But at that point, if you know that you don't know, then it's like, how can I put my child in a position so someone can teach her, even though I don't know? You have to want to break that cycle, that type of situation. And he didn't. And someone in the Kay had said it in the comments. He had a very limited and narrow view of women. He did because if he didn't have a narrow, like a very limited and narrow view of women, he wouldn't have put Winter in that position to where she only thought that her way to come up was to, and it's not saying, it's not a hit on anybody that is in the sex industry, but she wasn't doing it because, I don't think she was doing it necessarily because that was the path that she chose. She thought that was the only path that she had.
yeah,
And I think that was unfair of him to do that to his daughter, to put her in a position where she thought she had no other options. If she knew she had other options and she said, I want to be in the sex industry, then that's fine. That's your choice. There's nothing wrong with that. But he gave her no other choice than to say, you have to fuck your way to the top. That's what he told her. I mean, I hate to put it that foul, but
Mm.
that's what I got. That's what I got.
Yeah, and that's why her mother kept teaching her these same lessons. This is how you present yourself as you got to look better than all the other girls, and you got to do all this. And it's just like, so she just keep perpetuating the cycle. And back on, like, I guess the sequel, Kay also, because my whole what do I call that, theory of what the book might be about, I do feel like in the sequel it might take us through her experiences in prison. And I do think she might change, because I don't think her time in prison is going to be she's gonna. I think it's good. There's gonna be a lot of stuff, a lot of conflict, a lot of things that are gonna happen that are gonna change Winter's mind along her sentence, her stay in prison. Like people might leave, people might die in prison that she's cool with, and that's gonna be traumatic for her. People are gonna end up like getting out before she does, and she's gonna try to get out. Then when she gets out, the world's gonna change. It's gonna look so much different. Everybody's gonna have cell phones, all these different things that she's gonna have to experience coming out of jail. So it's just it's kind of like seeing what that transformation is going to be like for her through prison, and then coming out and what to expect, and then maybe finding out stuff about her family outside that's going to affect her inside and change how she feels. And then Kay also brought up something about like the scar on her face and her dealing with how that's going to change her mental, because she's been programmed to think about her beauty and her looks and always maintaining that. And now what are you going to do now that you have this scar that's going to change how other people see you and how you how you think of yourself?
I think that, and just to hypothesize on the next book, I think we talked about this a little bit, that I don't think that Winter is going to mature that much. Or I think that there are going to be some changes in her, but I think she's going to be stunted. And I think that when she comes out, and especially the twins, they're going to have had hopefully a nice life with some family, and maybe even Portia have a nice life with a family, and then that's going to be a problem for her.
No, you got to get to the end.
No, I'm just saying maybe with
no. You have to get to the end of the Coldest Winter, and it'll tell you exactly what goes on with Portia and the twins.
Okay.
Yeah, you got to get to the end.
Okay, well maybe it'll change in 2021.
Yeah.
I don't know, but yeah, get to the end.
I don't think this book could be now. I don't think it could be the same book. It couldn't go down the same way. Just it couldn't be set in 2020 and have the same impact.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't go. The story wouldn't go down the same way either. I don't think it could. And I don't know that this one's realistic, but it couldn't be. It couldn't go down the same and be at all realistic in 2020.
Maybe she went to cosmetology school while she was in prison.
I hope she got some kind of certificate in jail.
Right. When is her cosmetology certificate in jail? Because that would be lit.
Yeah.
She might.
Because she was good at it.
Yeah, how are y'all gonna feel if she did come out of jail all mature? How y'all gonna feel?
That shit ain't realistic.
I'm gonna be shocked.
That's the thing. That's the thing. What I'm saying, I don't necessarily think she's gonna be the most mature, but I think a lot of traumatic stuff in prison is gonna happen to her. That there's gonna be some changes, not necessarily the most mature changes, but just a lot of stuff that might simmer her down from the Winter that we're seeing in TCWE. Like it's gonna simmer her down, because I have a feeling, because I've seen Oz, so I know that some traumatic shit can go down. So I feel like it's not gonna be home for too long. It's gonna be at least maybe 2-3 years. Everything's gonna be chilly, and then it's like people are gonna come in and just gonna shake up her life. Like there are new girls that's gonna come into the prison, shake up her life, and like she's gonna think she was the big boss. Now it's like, oh no, I'm not. I don't know. I'm just really like speculating hardcore.
And that's the thing. She was like, I have rule. I have the run of these streets, and people.
And she's literally not.
Yeah, and when people saw her, they were like, "Oh, that's Santiago's daughter. We're gonna leave her alone," and they would go in the opposite direction. And then what tripped me out was when Sophia, is it Sophie or Sophia? Anyway, she was like, I need you to get me out of jail. And she felt like she was getting ready to have the baby in jail because she was so stressed out.
Oh,
But anyway,
Simone.
Yeah.
and so she was like, no. And she just like left her high and dry. And then she got out of jail and she came with her friends or the bees or whatever. And they were ready to take her out. And I was just like, so you haven't realized that I don't want to say nothing, but you are not who you thought you were, or you are no longer who you thought you were. So I think that when she goes to jail, if they pick that up with Sister Soldier so chooses to go with that narrative in jail, that's gonna be kind of hard for her to realize that she's not the shit.
What did y'all think of Rashida? Is that her name?
Yeah, Rashida.
Yeah.
Oh, in the what's it called?
Success House.
Yes,
Yeah.
Success House.
What did y'all think of her?
I think that was Sister Soldier,
Mm-hmm.
embodying herself in another character. To be honest with you,
I agree.
I think there was a little bit of, and maybe I read this. I feel like there's a little slut shaming in that interaction that I didn't like, because I think, once again, like I've said it before, I think Sister Soldier, and like a lot of people have said in the comments, I think that Sister Soldier has very strong opinions about how she thinks that the Black community should run, how Black women should hold themselves, what Black women should aspire to be, which in some aspects I agree with. But in this dynamic between Rashida and Winter, as much as I don't like the decisions that Winter is making, Winter is also a product of her environment. And I feel like throwing Rashida into the mix very much seemed like it was a way to implicate more character defamation on Winter, to continue to make her look bad. And I just, the sex conversation bothered me. That section that was just me. It just bothered me because I felt like there was Winter she enjoyed having sex, which is a woman. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And I feel like introducing a character that, for all intents and purposes, was prude, and looked down on Winter for wanting to have sex and enjoy sex, I didn't like, because it creates that standard once again that women have to have feelings, and have to be in love with a partner in order to engage in any sexual behavior, which we don't. We shouldn't be held to that standard. But I don't know. That's just me.
Yeah, I was so mad at the one part in, don't remember. It was in the beginning. Not in the beginning. One of the guys Winter was talked about having crackheads and
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, when they were in the drive-in.
And then in the end, when it was like a Winter and Soldier in her bedroom, where she was like, "What's up with GS's number?" and Sister Soldier was like, "I'm nice, but I'm not stupid." In that conversation, when she was like, "You never know, some of these rappers or entertainers don't even know themselves," and that whole conversation, I'm gonna spoil it for Erica, but just
no, go ahead.
No, I don't want to say everything that she says, but just it came across very slut shaming. It came across very homophobic, and I didn't like it at all. Like I think I just really wanted, because she has this whole thing where it's like, you are a bad person if you use sex for anything other than I guess
Procreation.
Yeah, procreating or outside of marriage. It's like you are a bad person if you think that you can have sex outside of any of these parameters. And I didn't like that at all. She just, it's one thing to be trying to say something about, wait and see a little bit, and it's another thing to be like, oh, if you do it, you're bad and you must not want anything for yourself, and that's kind of how it came across.
It does come off that way, and I think it bothers me that there are ways to have conversations about safe sex, especially because the Black community. I feel like being queer and being in the Black community is difficult. There's a different standard in coming out in the Black community than in other communities, and I think a lot of people talk about that intersectionality of being queer and Black and having to come out, it's a completely different experience. There are ways to have, and which is why I think, Deidre, you made a good point. This book couldn't hold in 2020 because there are ways to have conversations about you and your partner getting tested, okay, and you and your partner practicing safe sex, as opposed to saying that you're watching men because they may be down low, or you are not going to engage with a man that possibly could be bisexual and not just gay, or you're putting Winter in a situation where she's having sex without protection. I feel like there are better ways to have that conversation. And the dynamic with Will, was his name Will? Was that guy's name Will?
The one that went to the drive-in?
Yeah. That she found out that he was actually having crackheads give him head. Is that? I feel like that conversation could have been had in a better way than associating masculinity with the need or the want or desire to have sex with both men and women. That line passed because Winter said that she can't question her man's masculinity. And I feel like, just because a man desires another man has nothing to do with masculinity whatsoever. And I don't know if that was Sister Soldier's means to show Winter's limited and narrow perspective, or if that was.
I think that was hers.
I think that was her
limited and narrow perspective.
I always felt like it was her. Because additionally, when they were at the women's prison, and because that one stuck with me on my previous reread, where Sister Soldier was like, she was talking to the women, but she was like placing so much blame and burden on these Black women as like, you're the reason why the Black community is in the state that it's in, because y'all aren't stepping up to do all these things as Black women. And I'm like, but it's not only Black women though. Yes, they have a part to play in whatever needs to be done to improve the Black community, but we're not just gonna throw a burden on them and act like they the only ones that's supposed, like, they got to take their men to task, they got to do whatever and step up, but the men got to step up too. Are you call? And that's one thing I felt about reading this book too, that I felt Sister Soldier as the character and as the author, she, as much as she was critiquing men, she was also kind of like praising them and putting them on a pedestal. Because when she talks about Midnight felt like that was Sister Soldier's ideal of a man. That was always her ideal of a man. And she just, like, you could see it in the character when she talks about Midnight. She's like, she just talks about him in this affectionate way. It's just like, this man that I lost, this great man that I lost, that he's out there, on his mission, on his passion, doing his thing. And, I'm just hoping that one day he'll come back to me, kind of thing. It was just like, I just feel like she puts men on a pedestal. And she just kind of puts a lot of blame on Black women, with some internalized misogyny.
It is like, internalized misogyny, but
it's so misogyny.
Yeah. You brought up a good point because I had forgotten about it. I marked it as problematic in my book, but that point before when she was in the prison and she found out she was talking to HIV positive inmates instead of teenage girls, I think it was. Her reaction to that really upset me. I was like, I know this is 1999. It's not 1980. It's not 1979. It's 1999, and it was like around. There was a lot going on in 1999 with the AIDS situation as far as what people were saying. But it really, it made me think of that point in, have y'all watched Pose? I know you have, Shane. But yeah, that's another show y'all need to watch. And that one's on Netflix, the first 2 seasons. It made me think of one of the moments in the first season when they were talking about, I think it's Pray Tell's friend, that was HIV positive, or maybe it was his boyfriend or something in the beginning. Yeah, it just rubbed me all kinds of wrong, and it was just more homophobic words to me, because I think that whole thing fits into the, my man can't be bisexual, my man needs to be manly, and I need to make sure he's a man or whatever. It all worked into. I didn't like it.
In the back of our book, she brings up why she included the HIV.
Yeah, I think that's a special edition.
She talks about how she actually visited HIV positive women, and how the misconceptions of individuals who could be HIV or AIDS positive. But she doesn't really get into it that much, just from me kind of skimming over it.
Yeah.
She just kind of talks about it in relation to incarceration. So she has does she have like a nonfiction book as well? I forget the name of the book.
Yeah, no disrespect. That's her autobiography.
Yeah, no disrespect. And I
Malcolm X out this bitch.
I low-key want to try that out, because I really want to see where she stands on a lot of stuff, because and it's amazing just talking about this, is that I still enjoy the book itself. I still enjoy the book itself, because I think she does highlight a lot of important things that happen in the Black community, that whole idea, because it still happens today, not on the scale, I think. I don't want to say not on a scale, because I'm sure it's still happening on that scale, but some of the things that were happening back then are dated, that wouldn't happen in 2020. But I do believe that it is a reality that we've got to stop with the quick money type of situation and learn how to be business-like individuals, investing our money, working together as a community. But she does have these little nuances that I'm like, it's kind of ass backwards, that just don't, like, you're trying to, because to me, looking at this in 2020, and we always have to keep in mind that this was written in 1999, reading this in 2020, you can't talk about building up the Black community and isolate parts of the Black community in doing so. It doesn't make sense, because it will never happen. By creating scenarios where you're talking about a man's masculinity and basically being in some aspects homophobic, you have Black community members that identify as LGBTQI+. So how can you talk about building up the Black community but leave out certain groups in the Black community? So I really need to hear her straightforward thoughts on some things that were in here, because there were some things in here that you're like, and 20 years later, it's like, girl, you can't think like this. Not on this topic. You can't think like that.
I just read a little bit of that part about the AIDS part when she went to the jail, and it seems like she may have been, and correct me if I'm wrong, she may have been caught off guard.
She was
not ready to have that conversation with people women with AIDS. She was prepared to have the conversation with teenage girls. So I feel just in the little bit that I read that she, yes, was caught off guard, and that she didn't have anything prepared, or so she thought. She didn't have anything prepared for this particular group. So correct me if I'm wrong.
No, I don't disagree with you. I don't think I took it as all being caught off guard and unprepared for a speaking engagement. I took it more as she was grossed out. I don't think I took it as, like, if it had been black men, I don't think we would have got the same reaction, like having to take a moment in the bathroom type of reaction.
Okay.
She would have easily been able to. That's just how I took it. I don't know about.
And that's fine. That's why I'm saying correct. I mean, if you feel differently, because I mean, I just skipped, so I don't. In my Kindle, I just put in HIV, and it took me to that place, and I just read that, so I didn't have a chance to like truly digest it.
How I took it is she was unprepared. She wasn't expecting that, but it just felt like she had these preconceived prejudice notions going on. It popped up, and then it's like it's very much it jumped out. Basically, in this moment, her feelings about it jumped out. She couldn't hold back and hide and say that like she couldn't put on this veneer of like I can handle this. She was just already like, I don't want to deal with this right now. Like, this is not what I'm interested in dealing with at all, you know? But I also kind of understand too, because although the book was published in 99, I do think that the story itself was kind of set more like 95, 96 maybe. And that was a time when people are still not having frank and honest discussions about sex and sexuality, especially about Black sex and sexuality, and about STDs and HIV and all that stuff. So even me going in and me finding problems with it, I'm always still like very, very aware that like it's such a different time, but it just feels because I was a child then, but I still understood the gravity of how everybody felt about HIV and AIDS and gay people, especially gay men and gay Black men and all that stuff. So it just feels so far away from me. I can't even feel that feeling anymore because it's just it feels so far away from me now. But it's making me also think like, what is it, 2-3 years ago? I think almost still, like, Insecure was just tackling the issue with Molly dating that guy and finding out that he just got head from a guy. He had he said, I had no interest in it, none of that. And she still had a problem with that. And it's like we're still kind of far away from where people can just honestly come in and say, this is who I am. I may have experimented at in a little experience back in the day. It's no big deal. And everybody kind of moves on because we're being honest and open. We're doing what it takes to be precautious about our sexuality and taking care of stuff. And people are just still uptight about stuff. And then when you're being uptight like that, impressive, then you finding yourself in just bad situations, dysfunctional situations. But that's also still my opinion too. Yeah.
So you feel that her Sister Soldier inserting, well, Rashida, we'll start with Rashida. You feel that was Sister Soldier inserting herself into the narrative again as a young Sister Soldier, so to speak, and then when she's inserting herself as Sister Soldier, the character, homophobic, do you think that is actually her like real Sister Soldier, or is it this character, or like maybe a combination?
I think it's her, because the only reason why I said it is because literally while y'all were having a conversation, I literally was flipping through just about, and I wish I would have read this before, but I didn't even think to go over anything with this edition where she actually is talking about some stuff. One of her points of this book was to recapture the Black male identity, okay? But she puts in one of the paragraphs, I believe there are some real examples of Black masculinity and manhood. However, they have not been popularized, marketed, written about, filmed, and commercialized. I am trying as one woman to bring back and magnify the true and accurate essence of Black manhood. Writing the character of Midnight was one way in which I'm trying to accomplish for it. My thing about just her and making that statement is that her image and her perspective of Black masculinity is Midnight. And as soon as we get a character that may not fit that standard of being Midnight, of maybe not fulfilling what she considers to be masculinity, they're kind of demeaned. And I feel like it's her. I feel like it is her perspective. And like a lot of people have been saying in the chat, she was known. I mean, granted, this book is over 20 years old at this point. She was known for her militant and radical perspectives. I mean, I know y'all have read the Midnight book. I'm sure there are. It's. I don't know if he comes off in essence of being toxic masculinity, but I feel like Midnight can ride that fine line of what he expects a man to be and how he also views women. So I don't. She can't bring this into the next book. I tell you that right now. She can't. She can't bring what she's doing right now. She can't bring that into the next book.
No, because I was interested to see, like, okay, this came out in 1999, and I'm trying to think, okay, what was my first experience with gay men in literature? And my first one was Glenn Harris, and specifically, it was, oh man,
Invisible Life.
That was my first experience with Elin Harris, and from what I remember, that's a book about like a download brother, if I'm not mistaken. And so that was popular it came out in 1994. I wonder if that book got super popular and Sister Soldier was like, oh no, we ain't doing it. This is not what we doing. I wonder. I wonder because
I wouldn't be surprised.
I wouldn't either, because like there were other popular Black authors at the time, like you had that were doing specifically Black romance and had the alpha male, you had the Brenda Jackson, you had Eric Jerome, Dickey, and very popular at the time, and it was traditional male female Black relationship, and they were popular. It wasn't like they were like nobody was checking for them. So I wonder if one book, because what's B-Boy Blues, when did that come out? That came out earlier than...
I think that came out in 94.
Okay,
yeah, I might be wrong. I forgot exactly.
I just think that maybe she was trying to answer in the moment cultural things that was going on, and I think she felt some type of way about it, and this was...
I wouldn't be surprised if she... I mean, she's the same woman who went on, Donahue, or one of them shows, or it might have been Larry King, and said, like, let's have a day just to kill white people. So it was just kind of like, very much that girl who she would do something like that, just go back and be like, yo, this is not... And it also speaks of what we deal with now, where we have some like we have Pose, and then it's gonna have other Black people on Twitter who are gonna be like, oh, they have this agenda and and it's just like, but that's a small bit of representation after not even having it for so long. And then even now with Black Lives Matter and all that stuff, people are like, well, let's handle the situation with, they're killing Black men. They're killing Black men. You're not talking about the Black women that are getting killed. They're like, we can't deal with the LGBT community. That's sidetracking everything. But it's just this focus on Black masculinity, but also not kind of checking, not even so much checking, but also checking some of the ways that Black masculinity is out of control in a bad way, where it's just like they're cheating on women leaving them with so many kids, beating women, all kinds of stuff, just a lot of toxicness that they're doing. And then you're also kind of coming back around and being like, well, that's the men that we got, and and we're gonna do it. I don't know.
Well, if you didn't sleep with him before you married him, maybe he wouldn't be cheating on you. But I don't know. She gives me pick me vibes. I'm not here for it. I'm like, I appreciate, like somebody said in the comments, I appreciate the Coldest Winter Ever for the cultural that it was. I still gave it 4 stars, but like it could not be the same. Like even Invisible Life couldn't be what it was now. Like they just couldn't. So.
Yeah, because a little bit before I reread that, I reread Invisible Life, and when I was younger, I loved it and I enjoyed it. I think it's so good. But now when I got older, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like how they're talking about other gay men. I don't like how they're talking about I don't like that they have to hide. I don't get it. It's the 90s and stuff like that. I don't get that you got to do all this hiding and sneaking shit. Like, I don't like those books anymore because it's just like, my head's not in that space no more. I don't want to read. That's why I didn't like Giovanni's Room either, because they're busy hiding themselves away and all this stuff. I'm like, I'm not in that place no more. I want to see people being out and proud and just being honest. Like, you don't even got to be coming out. I just want you to live in your, and people, everything is fine. Like, we ain't got to make this big fucking rainbow flag jumping on the party. Like, I don't need it.
I definitely think that this is dated, and it so shows that it's dated, just based on how, and we've already talked about Winter expressing her sexuality. I don't think there's anything wrong with her expressing her sexuality, but when Sister Soldier does insert herself into it, I think that is problematic, because when I read that part where Will was talking about how he lets the crackheads, give him head, and how Winter is just like, oh, my man's got to be masculine, but what difference does that make? I mean, I don't understand. That. It doesn't make sense to me. And
did y'all see the circle? Okay, I keep going back to TV shows and movies. Did y'all see the circle? That show? It's a dating show. Was it a dating show? Not really a dating show on Netflix. And that in the end, where what was his name? Carlton. What was the black dude's name?
Oh, you're talking about the blind. Love Is Blind.
No, the black guy that was bisexual. And
Love Is Blind. Love Is Blind. Yeah, he was bisexual.
Love Is Blind. I said the circle.
Yes, Love Is Blind.
That whole incident where he came out as bisexual, that scene with Will gave me those kind of vibes almost, because I was like, damn, like why is being bi, or I don't understand why this is a problem and why she's like, fuck him now, but whatever. I can see like the crackheads, like we're not letting crackheads. We not.
No.
The one about, oh, I need my man to be a man part. I was like,
that crackheads giving somebody head should have been more of an issue.
Yeah, that should have been more of an issue.
That should have been the issue.
That should have been the issue. Not whether or not
I would have been like, I ain't got no problem with you being bi, but you can't run around letting no crackhead suck your ding-a-ling like it's cool. Like, that ain't gonna work, bro.
And when you take the crackheads out of the issue, the main issue, and make it about who is doing it, that becomes the problem. And I mean, I had an issue. I did have an issue with that part.
Yeah, all these words are bendy.
Yeah,
I don't know. That ending,
which part?
The very, very end, where we see
very end.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah,
We come full circle.
yeah.
Yeah.
I, so, do you think Portia is exactly like Winter? Just
No.
I think
No.
she's similar.
I think she's similar. I don't think they're exactly alike. I think Portia's journey was very different because I think it's going to be I think a lot's going to be determined, because I haven't read enough of A Deeper Love Inside. I think that her upbringing when she was in foster care is going to determine a lot of how she moves. But it's kind of like it's kind of like Sister Soldier left that prior to writing Portia's story. I feel like she left that kind of open ended because of the fact that it's almost like unless this kind of goes back to her beliefs, unless we function under men that are like Midnight, we all are just going to stray the path and not do what we're supposed to do.
But Midnight is a problematic character for me.
Hmm?
Is.
From what I've read so far, Midnight is a problematic character.
Yeah, he is. He is. Midnight is.
He's not who you would hold a torch to.
Midnight. My issue with a lot of her characters is she doesn't have a good balance between street smart and book smart. To me, it's like you're either on one end of the spectrum or you're on the other. And while I think she was trying to make Midnight's street smarts and book smarts work together, to me, they worked against each other a lot. And she could never find that balance with him because I did like that Midnight was very much so about self-motivation, self-education, making sure that you, as much as you were street smart, you also needed to be educated. But the way that she wrote Midnight, he's very elitist.
Yeah.
And it's very polarizing to see her write him as an elitist character, but then when she writes herself into the book, she's talking about the Black community working together, which is why I said it's very strange. Some aspects of this book don't necessarily work very well because of the fact that you can't have a character like Midnight who is finding that balance, who is becoming educated, who could have helped Winter had he taken a second to truly educate her and attempt to instead of putting her down constantly, maybe she would have ended up in a better situation. But because she writes him as an elitist character and then goes and flips that whole idea of being elite and only worrying about self, she considers that a bad thing. It doesn't make sense. But I don't think Midnight is the end all be all. She wants Midnight to be the epitome of the end all be all when it comes to a Black man. But reading this, of course, 20 years later, he's not. 1999, maybe so, yes. But 2020, hell no. I wouldn't look twice at a man like Midnight.
And the interesting thing is, he's not. She sees him as the end all be all, but he's not a Black American man.
That's not. What is it? Where?
I think he's from
Sudan. Yeah, he's from Sudan.
He's Sudanese.
Okay.
So I was just like, so that's what he's Sudanese and he's Muslim, and that's another. And I'm going back to Midnight, and we haven't gotten to that yet. We haven't gotten yet. But every time we read the book, I can't remember the things about the book because he put his mother on a pedestal, and in a way,
yeah, he did.
What's her name? Sister Soldier also kind of put his mother on a pedestal, where it's like, this is the kind of woman that you should be. You should be a modest woman, which is also interesting because I just saw Cuties on Netflix, and yes,
I want to see that.
it has its huge problematic moments. But I think it was a really good story aside from how it was executed. But it does deal with modesty and in its, I guess, juxtaposition, or it's just like it's an opposition to the Muslim faith, where it's modesty. They're very modest people, but there's also kind of like, because it's so strict, some would and it's also so patriarchal that some of the women growing up within that community can also kind of rebel very violently against it. And in the case with Midnight's mother, she's just very much a part of it, and she just in it. And also, it's like similarly in Cuties, the mother in Cuties, she kind of like, she loves her husband and she kind of stays, she just kind of goes along with how everything is set up within their community. And is similarly in the book, in the book Midnight, it's kind of like she goes along with the same thing. She kind of leaves their country in Africa and comes to this new country, and she's building a life there, and then her husband is doing a whole nother something in Africa, like in their home country. He's doing a whole different something, and she just kind of has to deal with it, because this is the setup of of their, I don't know, the I'm not finding the right words, not hierarchy, but like basically this is the setup within their community. Like, you have to be the subservient woman, and you always have to stay modest, and you can't do nothing different from that. You know.
I wonder, do y'all think that if Midnight was willing to help Winter, do you think that would have turned her off if he had been like, "Oh, girl, I'm gonna take you under my wing, but I'm not gonna teach you nothing about the game. I'm gonna teach you about blah 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 blah." Do you think she would have still wanted Midnight, or you think that his own?
I don't think so. I think there was the attraction to Midnight because of the hustle. And
would have been able to help her if he wanted to?
I don't think so. I think maybe.
I think she's too strong-willed, and she wants it her own way. Because as much as she kept getting the message from him, from his body language, from his all those non-verbal communications, that I'm not interested in you, and she processed it as like, I don't think he's interested in me, but she kept going anyway. And if he was to tell her like, yo, I'm just gonna teach you the games, that she's still feeling like, I'm gonna change your mind, I'm gonna find a way to change your mind, I'm gonna use my feminine wiles, and I'm gonna still change your mind somehow.
I think you're right. I don't think anybody could have taught at the point that we meet Winter in this book. I don't think anybody could have. I think it was too late to teach her outside of learning things the hard way. That's just how I feel.
I don't think he could have helped her, but I would have loved to see him try. Because for me personally, I'm very much about having a good balance of street smarts and book smarts. Like, I feel like there should be a good balance. And I feel like Midnight he reminds me of Black people who better themselves and they're not willing to help their community. And that really bothers me. And I'm saying this only having read The Coldest Winter Ever. I don't know what his perspectives and views are in his trilogy, but in The Coldest Winter Ever, it just really bothered me that even if Winter wouldn't have listened, I wish he would have just tried. And if she didn't, she didn't listen, it's like, you know what? Oh, well, I tried to tell you, you're going to have to learn the hard way. Because to me, that reinforces that whole idea of who came up with it, y'all, the talented 10th. Yeah, like that whole concept, that whole idea of like, there are an elite group of us, and that in itself destroys the Black community, which is why I keep saying that to me, writing him like that made no sense. If you're going to push the narrative that the Black community, because she did, when she was talking to those group of women, she was telling them, you know, well, wouldn't you want to help the school? And the person's like, well, why would I help the school? Like, I'm just worried about my sister. And it was like, well, you need to help the school because, you know, your sister goes to that school. And what if you're, you know, you're not helping the other kids? And we all impact each other. We all are, everything affects everything essentially. And to say that about the Black community, and that we have been known, the Black community has been known not to work together,
Mm-hmm.
and not to pull together. And we have the power. If the Black community was to rise up as a whole unit and leave no one out, that's a hell of a price to pay for a lot of people.
People,
And the
yeah.
fact that she was trying to preach that message, but then put Midnight in this elitist position where he had the tools to at least say something to her, and he turned his back and went the other way. To me, it was like, and this is your epitome of what you want Black masculinity to be, is not to help, not to lift up your sister, not to lift up your fellow human being that identifies as Black. It just she that to me was just incorrect. But y'all are right. I don't think Winter would have listened. I don't think she would have listened. But he should have said something instead of saying like, "You dumb, you would, you know, like, you dumb as hell. Like, I don't mess with dumb women." And it's like, bruh,
Well, to
like,
And I mean,
who are you?
yeah.
she's what, 16? She's what, 16, and he's like 20 something.
We don't
Yeah,
know
he's
No, she was
22.
how old he
17.
is. I don't know how old he was. He was
He was
older.
in his
Yeah, I
early
think he's
20s.
like
He was
22.
22.
Yeah, and
Okay.
Yeah.
so I can, and not that I'm excusing it, but I can see him saying something like that because he's older. It doesn't make it right by any stretch of the imagination, because being older, you're supposed to be like, okay, hey, Winter, this is not it. This is not the way that you should be looking at this. The reason why I don't want to be with you is because of X, Y, and Z. If he had just come out and said it, didn't have anything to do with Santiago. He just didn't want jailbait. We'll just say that. And then there are other things that he didn't like about her. And I'm being very surface level here. Um, but if he had just come out and said it, then maybe she would have moved on instead of continue to try and embarrass herself. And then when they go to he's at the club or whatever, working, and up on the screen pops her and Natalie and Bullet and whoever the other guy was, and then
Mhm.
he gets into a fight, like trying to protect her. So it's not that he doesn't care about her. It's that Winter does a lot of this to herself, and she just keeps
I don't
doesn't.
know. I don't know if Winter cares. I don't know if that scene in him in the bar fighting was more about embarrassment for him in Santiago than it was for him caring
That's what I
about
was thinking.
Winter.
It crossed.
I don't think
I
it had
just,
anything to do. To me, that's how I read it. I don't feel like it had anything to do with about how he felt about Winter. I think in that moment he was the only person from his crew there. His boss's daughter is on screen, you
okay.
know, having sex with these boys, and it's an embarrassment to his boss and to him. I
I thought. I mean, I did
Midnight.
see that too. But I'm
I
just
just feel like
curious if there is some level of that he does care about, not on a romantic level, but more of,
no.
you don't think
I,
so?
I don't think so because if
Okay.
even if I didn't, and that's just me. That's just me, and and that a lot of that has to do with the fact of how she writes the later part of the book, which is why I say I don't feel like he cared, because
Okay.
if she's using Midnight to send a certain message, her messages end up conflicting by the time you get to the second half of the book. It
All right.
doesn't make sense for her to have written him in that way, and then she's preaching a different message by the time you get to the second half of the book, because it just doesn't align to me, which is why I look at Midnight as not being as caring as you think he should be, because of the fact that if she was preaching this message of Black community, Black unity, helping each other out, regardless of whether he liked her or not, if that is Sister Soldier's message, Midnight should have been like, listen, I don't F with you. I don't like you. But if you want to get your life together, come sit down and have a real conversation with me. Then he would have put the ball in her court. And if she didn't make the move after that, then it would have been on Winter. But he didn't give Winter a chance. I'm not saying that Winter, because Winter she's a horrible person. But I think that there's more. It's easy to say that Winter was responsible for everything, but there are a lot of other pieces to the puzzle too that I think sometimes we discount, because Winter is so glaringly problematic. But we don't account for her father. We don't account for her mother. We don't account for the way that that way that Midnight treated her. We don't even account for the way that Sister Soldier treats her. Even if Winter is doing these horrible things, there are other people at play that do some off-ish type of thing. And that's reading that from a 2020 perspective, though. In 99, this probably wouldn't have been as big as a big of a deal. But in 2020, everybody had problems. Everybody was an issue. The only people who weren't an issue were the twins. That's it. And they were never on the page.
Yeah, I know nothing about Portia except for that she was 8 years younger or so, and that she appeared to be jealous of Winter.
Mm-hmm.
And then we don't really learn anything else about Portia until the very, very end. And we still didn't really learn that much about her. We just got to see her. So I'm very interested. Is that the second book she wrote? Or is that just the order we're going to read it in?
I think that's the second book by publication order.
Oh.
No, I think Midnight was the second publication. Yeah, Midnight was after the Coldest Winter Ever. And I think I'm not exactly sure in the midst of the Midnight trilogy where A Deeper Love Inside came. I don't know if it came as the last book or it came before A Moment of Silence.
Maybe we should read it in publication order then.
I don't know. I think maybe we should. The only reason why I say that is because I don't remember Portia at all in the Midnight story. At all. I only remember one thing from the Midnight story, and that's one of the main female characters, and I won't talk about.
I know, because I'm thinking about her. I always think about her because I think about her.
I'm like, so I don't. Maybe we should read it in publication order. Ashley.
I think we should read it in publication order because actually, the way that it works is that, let's see, The Coldest Winter Ever was published in 99. Let's see when Midnight was published.
2007.
Oh,
2007.
Yeah. It took her a while.
Wow.
And then Midnight of Love was 2010.
Oh.
And then A Deeper Love Inside was 2013.
Oh, wow.
And then A Moment of Silence, which is the third Midnight book, was 2015.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think I read the Midnight book when it came out. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, too. And I read it. Because I've read reviews where people are like, yeah, I said like they thought it was unrealistic, which it kind of was. But I also I liked it because he did some wild shit. He did some boondock ass shit in that book, and I liked it.
Yeah. But it's so different, though. It doesn't even really necessarily feel like it's written by the same person. If I remember correctly, it has a whole different tone and just I don't know. I liked it. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah,
I did like it. To be honest, I think I'm gonna have a lot of more problems with it than I did with Winter.
Oh, so do I. I do think so. Quite a few things come to mind.
Yeah.
There's that one girl you were talking about. Then
Yeah.
coming closer to the end, what happened at the end, that kind of bothered me too because I'm like, it, you're gonna. He shit on Black American women, and then this is how you end the book. Okay, I'm done. I can't wait. Fuck this nigga. And but also Midnight. That first book also does not. It does not it doesn't meet up to the Coldest Winter Ever in chronological in the timeline.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how the second book how far it reaches up to the Coldest Winter Ever, but I want to see that intersection. I
I
want to
do.
see like right before they met, all that stuff. Like what brought all that.
Yeah. I think that the ending to Midnight made me just leave the rest, just let that series be what it was. So I am interested to see
I wonder
what.
if she even lets them intersect at all. What if she doesn't? What if she
I think
just
she would
bypassed this?
have. Oh,
Yeah, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be mad when it's over. I need to know how she. Do we know how he got to New York at the end of I don't remember.
He wasn't in Maryland?
No,
Was
I'm
he?
saying by the end of Midnight, the book Midnight. Do we know?
Oh.
I don't remember if we know how he even got to New York. I don't remember.
yeah. Because let me see. Because I know that because basically the end of the Coldest Winter Ever, I think he's got his sister and he's got the twins. So we would have to see how his story gets to that point. Plus, also how where was he in while where was the things that we couldn't see in the
Yeah,
Coldest Winter Ever? Like how would that play out? Which I'm assuming in Moment of Silence that is where we're gonna pick up and get that all those questions answered.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
But
think we
I
should
think
read Midnight. Let's read Midnight next then.
Okay.
But let me tell you though, I think with Midnight how it ended, I think it ended with him going to Japan. And then because I've gotten spoilers on what the second book is like, and he there is I think there's a Muslim practice, and he that plays out in the second book. I
Mhm.
don't want to spoil too much. That plays out in the second book though, and it's so interesting that played out, and he's shitting on black women, on Black American women, and this is what he does. Also, fuck you, Midnight. It's just
Yeah.
really
Pretty much. Pretty
and
much.
so many men I think follow they probably haven't read the book, but they follow his blueprint as a man, where they're like, I'm a boss, I got my money, I read books like the biography of Malcolm X and the Wretched
I
Earth
can't
and all these
stand black
things,
men like that.
and like why y'all can't because I came across this guy's tweet where he was talking like I think Kerry Washington. She posted this guy who was I don't know being dancing in Paris and just being like wilding out, and then he quote tweeted that and said like, "Oh, this Black Boy Joy bullshit is like it's real gay and da 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 and all this stuff." And like you go through his stuff, and people kept like responding to that and like giving pushback and saying like, "Oh, how you go?" Basically, they're saying like he's trying to say that black men we're dealing with so much that there's nothing to be smile about or have joy about, that y'all need to get out there and go get a job and become your own boss and do all this stuff. And it's like like that man is embodying, like as far as I'm concerned, he's embodying Midnight, where he's just got this attitude that you got to be your own boss and you got to go out and read all these books by these black authors about how to start your own Black Panther Party, but they don't really care about trying to help black people. They just kind of feel like I want to be that superior black man to every other black man or every other black person, and I only respect other people who have been able to, who were lucky enough or blessed enough or smart enough to get to my level without me or anybody else having to tell them that. They just figured it out because ta-da, or they have somebody in their lives that could help them get to that point.
It gave you a whole lot of pro-lifers being mad at people on Wick. That's what it gave me.
Exactly. Basically. Best analogy, period.
Well.
Oh, and one more thing. I really want an adaptation of this book. As problematic as it is, I still want the adaptation.
Me too. I still want it. I want it updated though, just so we don't have to drag it.
I do think it might have to be updated. They would have to update it.
What would you do? What would you change? What would you change? Yeah. Besides the homophobic mess.
I think it might have to change the time period. They might have to bump the time period up to now. Mm-hmm. They would definitely have to, even if they kept it in the 90s, they'd really have to cut a lot of the homophobic stuff. They'd cut a lot of scenes. They'd cut Will. They'd cut a lot of stuff. But I was also wondering, like, can they set it in our time period with Winter going through all of this? And, you know, instead of her being recorded on a camcorder, she's getting recorded on somebody's phone. It ends up on like Pornhub or something, and being disseminated all over Twitter, and everybody knows her business, kind of thing. You know, maybe that. I've also.
I don't think they need to cut out. I don't think they need to cut out Will, because that's a reality. Even today,
the crackhead part is the most important part of why he's winning.
Yeah, I mean, I think
like, man, give him something else.
I still can't even get. I can't get over the fact that it was not the fact that this man had crackheads slopping on his knob. Like, bruh, I don't care who you get head from, and that's not gonna bother me. But whether it's however they identify in sexuality or gender, but we need to have a conversation about the fact that she was like, I needed some. I know they needed some crack, so I told them they could come. You know, they could come give me some head.
Right, and that's what I was thinking. That you don't have to cut out Will, because you need to have that conversation. He could be the bridge to that conversation about you know, you doing anything for drugs, and then, you know, are you bisexual, or are you this, or are you that? But not necessarily, you know, Winter talking about how, you know, I got to find out my man has to be masculine.
Yeah. Maybe cut that part out. I don't know. Because maybe it shows Winter's thoughts too, and what she prioritizes. So you do kind of need to have that in there. Maybe the end part, I don't know. The whole conversation with Sister Soldier in the bedroom, that how she picks her men and all of that. Maybe it's not Sister Soldier. Maybe it could be Wendy Williams. I don't know, somebody.
That would be an interesting thing. Like, if they adapted it, would they be casting someone to be Sister Soldier, and who would play Sister Soldier in the movie?
I don't know if does she still have.
They might have to cut Sister Soldier out, or rewrite her character.
Maybe a generic character, and not let it be her specifically, because I don't know if she has the same.
I would want her character to be like a minor character, not so
prominent.
Inserted, not but so inserted.
But some of this is worth. The conversation is worth having, but in a different umbrella. Not assuming that all Black men are down low, but having a conversation about Blackness and queerness and coming out and being comfortable in your sexuality in the Black community, because she has framework for good conversation, but the direction that she goes with some of her beliefs, I'm like, yes, we do understand that having the conversation about Black men not being safe enough to come out and to be comfortable in their sexuality that is a conversation worth having. Not just saying, oh, I'm going to watch a man so I can determine whether he's gay or not. Girl, what?
Yeah.
Girl, what you mean? Like, but once again, I had to keep saying to myself, like, 20 years ago, that was a conversation about watching someone or watching particularly Black men saying, oh yeah, I'm going to watch him to make sure that he's not having relationships with other men. And it's like, okay, but maybe we should just be talking about having safe sex in general and creating safe spaces for Black people in general. So I think there's stuff that she can include that was already here and not necessarily cut, but it has to be reframed. It all the conversations have to be reframed to what is going on now in 2020 and not 1999.
Yeah.
And I think that the other part is what you were talking about, having safe sex. That also definitely goes with winter, and then like having protected sex and teen pregnancies. There are a lot of topics in here that could be addressed, that could have even been addressed in the book to begin with, to say, okay, we're going to have this conversation about teen pregnancy. We're going to have this conversation about this. We're going to have that conversation about that, which from what I understand from you guys has not happened or does not.
Not in a real sense, not in a, it was more like condoms. It wasn't like, I don't think it was, it could have been talked about more. It could have been expanded upon.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think at the top, where the guy that she called out, I think that was like about the only time. Did she use a condom with him? I'm trying to remember, because I feel like that was the only time I remember they brought up the guy who she and Lauren, like when they went on the little double date and she hooked up with the guy with
the guy that she embarrassed.
Yeah, like was he wearing a condom?
I think he was wearing a condom.
I think that was like the only time they mentioned a condom. And the rest, I didn't get one.
She didn't mention condoms at all.
No, she had a condom with. I feel like she had a condom with that guy with Lauren, but I know she didn't have a condom with what's the guy's name what's the rapper's name?
Bodyguard, GS.
Yeah.
GS. Yeah, I know for a fact, because the way that the sex scene was written was very intentional to remind you, because it was addressed later on. It was written to remind you that they did not wear a condom, because of the way that sex scene ended. It was clear. It was, and I had forgotten that actually happened in the book, and then I was like, that's why, because she wrote it glaringly like they had unprotected sex, and this is what happened as a result. Because when you read it, you know what's going to happen as a result.
And I will say that
this at some point, because I had feelings about that.
What?
Why, GS? Why did she just want to take him from Sister Soldier, or because I didn't understand why she just didn't get somebody else in his posse, another rapper? Why him specifically?
I don't know if it was because of the money situation, or why she felt the need to target him in particular, especially when he was coming to the house and you knew that he was seeing Sister Soldier. Like, I don't know if that was supposed to be her doing it out of spite, or she was thinking like, this could be a quick money scheme if I can get him to.
It might have been out of spite, because I think, what was the part? No. When Rashida talked to her about going to, or like when she got the card from Midnight to go see Sister. So basically, after a while, I think after she was in the car with Midnight, and Midnight had Sister Soldier on, and she was like, what's Sister Soldier's issue with which that just made me laugh, but that was also so delusional from Winter, where she's just like, drug dealers are just trying to live their life, and they're trying to make their money. So I don't know what's her problem, blah blah blah, and all this stuff. And she just kept trying to justify why dealing drugs, and her lifestyle was right and everybody else was wrong, and how is the FBI and all these people coming to take our money? This is our stuff. How dare they come and take our stuff? And it's just like, but girl, this shit is illegal. What are you talking about? Do you not get it? It's illegal. But I felt like as the story continued, every time Sisol's name came up, she just kept getting very, very like defensive and aggravated about it, and just like like just annoyed at Sister Soldier. Like, why are you like why you keep bringing up her name? Why would y'all go and listen to her talk? Like, why would you waste your money? She can't even dress. All she could do is she got a cute haircut, but she can't dress. What did like why would you she was just so annoyed with her.
I think people really said that stuff about her though.
Mm-hmm.
Because hold on, y'all. I keep going back.
That was
hold on.
her expressing to herself in that book.
Yes, hold on. There was a because one of the questions is, why did you write yourself? Mm-hmm. Why did you write yourself as a character in the book? Hold on, I gotta find it. Y'all don't mind me.
No, that has been a critique of the book too. People have been like, why is Sister Soldier written into the book? You are not Kurt. What is it? Kurt Vonnegut did that? I forgot who did that. Like one science fiction author, he wrote himself into his book as like a Deus Ex Machina or something like that. It was very weird.
Hold on, where is it? Oh, I can't believe I saw that. You didn't mark it.
I just thought that was just like, damn, I wonder if something like this happened to Sister Soldier in real life, or like
well, she wrote what she knew.
Yeah, I just thought that was so odd. Not odd, it made sense. Like Hayden says, he was the best and he represented the best, but like, I don't know. What would you say?
She said, and I quote, "At the time that I penned The Coldest Winter Ever, I knew I was both loved and hated by hundreds and thousands of people. When the main character in the story went to Santiago, stated up front that she hated Sister Soldier, she created an instant emotion in the readers who knew and loved me. They would naturally be curious and defensive. They would feel something that would drag them right into the tale. For the people who hated me, there would be a feeling of solidarity with Winter and the great expectation that yes, Sister Soldier is about to be challenged and exposed. As a result, they would also be dragged into the story. Besides, females competing and fighting is cheered on in American society. Many people love to read about it, witness it in two sides. For African women, it is outright expected that we hate each other. It is known but not discussed that we have many conscious and subconscious problems with image, complexion, identity, culture, finance, love, community, and family."
I mean, okay. Not in the movie adaptation.
I'm going to go back and read the answer to these questions because I think it's going to make me feel differently about some things.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is.
Yeah. I almost feel like that question interview thing, because I know there was a hardcover and that was like the bonus material for it. So I almost feel like she probably went back and did some soul searching and had somebody interview her on all these and kind of give some new insight on where she was, and also kind of let people see her differently because of that. But I do. One thing I want to say is I definitely love how she wrote the book, where because we're seeing it primarily, we're seeing everything from Winter's view. We have to infer a lot of stuff from context. So like if like with the whole situation with going to get the car, like we got it from Winter's perspective, where she woke up, she hearing her mother and her father arguing and all that stuff right before the gunshot. Like, you kind of infer all the other information around that. Like, what is there? What, like, we're inferring basically what the kind of man that what's his name, that Santiago is, because we're thinking about the time period, and we're also thinking about like the fact that he doesn't have a legit something, a legit job to kind of put some down on taxes. So I don't know, it's just I love the context clues that are dropped around it, and then you just kind of build so much, like you build the rest of the story out from that. Like, I just love that aspect of the writing.
Did y'all like Bullet telling Winter the whole story in the end, or did you feel like you were shown or told more than you were shown? Did you like that part? You know what I'm talking about, where he kind of breaks down everything that happened that Winter didn't know all the details of?
I think that I don't think she could. I think if she would have shown all of that, this novel would have been a lot longer. Because I
Yeah.
felt there's a lot of very tricky elements to how that whole situation went down. And
Yeah.
because she was writing it from Winter's perspective, I don't know how much she could have shown, because Winter was never a part. She was never given the access to the background of what was going on with her father. So I don't know how it would have worked out for her to even really have shown these steps if Winter didn't herself have access to it. I think that when she got all that information, Winter should have hightailed her ass out of the situation, because you were literally laying in the bed with you're sleeping with the enemy, for lack of better terms. You're sleeping with the enemy. So it's like, when you find out that this is the man truly that set up your daddy, put you in the position that you're in, sells crack to your mama, okay? And, you know, when Bullet described the fact that they killed kids, his crew killed children to send a message. That ain't it. That's not where you want to be. That's not where you want to be. So I don't know how she would have done it, Deidre.
I don't know. I don't think, I was just asking really because it didn't bother me. I like that he basically laid it all out on her, because to me that was the point where she had to make a decision. So at what point before then she was like, everybody in my family's dead to me. I still think about my father, but my family's dead. It's just me. And so when Bullet wants to pick her up, in the way they come together and the way things go with them, and get to the point where he's telling her all the stuff that she missed, I felt like she basically had everything she had been working to get this whole time. Like, she had the man with the money and a plan, and he had an exit strategy. He was already doing better than her dad, because he had other businesses going on besides just the drugs. So, I mean, yeah, he did betray her father, but what was done to me in my eyes. And I was like, girl, here's your train. Take your meal ticket. Why are you lying to him about?
Exactly.
Why are you lying to him about? At this point, she should have just put all her chips in that basket. I felt like, at least for a little while, at least so she could make her own little stash, get her own like $10,000 or whatever, however much money she felt like she needed to go shopping, and then get where to live. She, you know, she just didn't. I don't think she played that card right, considering she was already sleeping with him. She'd already gone to where was it, Key West with them. She'd already built the house with them. Not built the house, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no.
On the train, and she was on the boat and rowing down the stream. Like, I don't know what. I don't know how she thought that was gonna play out with the line about the leaving and the. I don't know.
Can we just go back to the fact that the part where she said that her family was dead to her, and she was talking about her sisters and how she didn't even think about them anymore, and she didn't care.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Okay. At one point, they were like your life, you know?
Mhm.
So,
Were they? When?
no,
No,
no, no,
really though.
no.
Because
I
she was
mean,
the
that's
one
the
who was
way that
like,
she
"Here, Magdalena,
portrayed
here's
the
some money. Babysit the kids for me because I'm not going to be the permanent babysitter no
She
more."
didn't give a damn about them then. I don't think she ever
right.
cared about this kid.
Well, okay. That is very true. But she was at least she was trying. At one point, she was trying to get her family back together. I should have
Yeah.
done it
Mhm.
that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then she got to the point, she went to the jail and her father was like, no, I can't see. I don't want to see her. And now all of a sudden, everybody is dead to her and she's not thinking about anybody. Like, I don't know. I just, the level of selfishness is unbelievable.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was such a problematic thing for me. And which
Mhm.
goes back to us talking about how she didn't learn how, and she doesn't know how to love.
No.
She does.
She was never loved.
She
Yeah,
went.
Mm-mm.
She wasn't loved.
that's a good
I mean,
point.
her mother came back from the hospital, and her first thought was, "Well, at least I'm going to be the one driving the car now, not her. She's
Right.
in bad shape. It's not going to work
Yeah,
out." It's just like, okay,
And
girl.
then,
yeah,
I loved it when she was like, "Oh, it's time for her meds. I'm gonna give her meds, and she'll be knocked out for hours and
Yep.
whatever."
Well,
I was like,
her
"This."
family didn't give a damn about her either. So, it's very
Agreed.
environmental as well.
Mhm.
Um,
yeah.
I think about the way that
Mm-hmm.
her aunt treated her.
Woo!
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yeah.
yeah, her aunt did her wrong too. I mean, at that point, granted, yeah, Winter is 17, but she's a child. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
she's a teenager. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
She's a teenager. She's still a dependent. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you stealing from a minor and then putting her out and putting her into the system.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, she never was shown love. That's what I keep saying. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are a lot more people
Yeah.
responsible than Winter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even myself, I think I spent a little bit of time thinking about this. It's so easy because she's the main character. It's so easy to look at her as being this horrible human. But Winter's also a product of her environment. She behaved in the
Mm-hmm.
way that she was taught. And I think that once again, going back to how I feel about Sister Soldier did have some good points about some things that we do in terms of the Black community and what we place value on in front of our children, how we educate our children, how we treat our children, because then those children become adults and they carry on those same cycles that we perpetuate onto
Mm-hmm.
them. So yes, Winter does make some horrible decisions. She's a nasty person, but she
Mm-hmm.
comes from a nasty environment with more nasty people. So in some degree, she's not 100% responsible for a lot of stuff because I think about how her father put her in a certain mentality that just she couldn't function. Her
Mm-hmm.
mother was so codependent on her whatever he was that she couldn't even support. She didn't give a damn about her kids because ain't no way I'm gonna tell a cop to lock me up and I'm leaving 4 girls behind.
Mhm.
And Sense would tell you that they're all minors, meaning that, CPS is gonna come in and they're gonna pick those kids up. Her mother didn't give a damn about her kids. Her aunt stole from her. Her daddy was having an affair, and when he had an affair, he lied to her, knowing that she knew. He avoided her at some point because he didn't want to see her. She wasn't, and that's what's so sad about it is that when it all came down to the end, she loved her daddy through and through, and he wasn't shit. He wasn't good at all.
Yeah.
So no, I don't think she gave a damn about her sisters because she didn't know what love was. She ain't never
Mhm.
had nobody love her the way that she should have been loved. So of course, no, she's not gonna give. And that's the same reason why she does what she does at the end of the book when it involved Portia.
Yeah.
That's exactly why. Because I was like, damn, girl. I was like, why you do that to your sister? And I'm like, because you know no better. You
Yeah.
know what's gonna happen to your sister because your sister is gonna end up in certain situations that you now have knowledge of, but you are not gonna say nothing because you ain't had nobody say it to you. So why would I do that for her? I had to learn the hard way, so she needs to learn the hard way too. It's
Mm,
nasty. It's a vicious cycle.
Mm-hmm.
mm. And another thing, how I read it as I read Winter, I kept thinking of her as like the black version of a spoiled rich white girl. Those
Yes.
spoiled white
Oh,
girls,
yeah.
like you're handed everything and you're just like you're entitled to all these things. But the
Mhm.
thing is, you don't have the same infrastructure that a spoiled rich white girl would have.
Nope.
So
Nope.
it's like you just it's
And
gonna fall
and
apart.
more and not having the same infrastructure as far as, the growing up, but the protection
Yeah.
Yes.
that that
Yes. Good point,
spoiled
Erica.
Mm,
rich child
yeah.
white girl would have. You don't have that. She didn't have that protection because I mean, I do believe that her father would have done whatever he could have, but at the same time, I think it had love was conditional,
Mm-hmm.
and he would have, if it got to be too cumbersome or too burdensome, he would have let her go.
Yeah. I think that's
Hmm.
how mom ended up on crack too. Besides the progression from the recovery from the shot, it's like, okay, she's just like Winter in that her all her value she puts in her appearance. And so when she got shot and then Santiago's in jail, she know her face would never get fixed, and so she has no value now. So might as well, what am I doing here? Just do the crack. That's how, what I'm saying? And I know some people, that's how addiction is for a lot of people, is like when you get to that, you just go to a substance to make you forget about things. And that's when she cut her hair off. I think y'all think she was already on crack by then, or she was going down the hill.
I think she was going down the hill, but
Yeah,
I don't
first
know.
time.
I mean,
Like,
I already know that she was already, I feel that she was already abusing the pain
yeah,
medication.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, see Santiago with that blonde wig on. I
Yeah.
think she's already gone at that point.
Yeah.
I do think that good because I think what was it? Santiago said it himself that he said that he's any man who's been shot who's been shot in the head, he doesn't come back right. So
Yeah.
basically I already knew that he was mentally kind of out of it. And then because well, yeah, maybe she was, yeah, probably on drugs, or at least the drugs that she was taking was kind of wilding her out.
Yeah.
Because Winter was like describing her mother as like, I didn't recognize this person anymore. She was kind of like an imposter. All of a sudden, her eyes were wild. She was always doing these wild, erratic things. I probably didn't pick up the context clues that she was on drugs by then yet, but I kind of took it as like the gunshot to the head, that trauma itself, plus just that actual thing in her head, like it already just kind of started changing her mind.
Mm, that's a good one.
Oh, and mhm. And one more thing, for the adaptation, what are like your I don't know, like cast ideas, like people that you could see as characters in the roles?
I cannot
You
picture
could see as
it.
actors as for the
I cannot picture an actress other than maybe like a very busty, a lot more curvy Zoe Saldana, maybe. Like for skin tone and hair texture is what I'm like going for.
Yeah.
I don't know who else.
Yeah, because I was thinking
Go ahead.
because I was thinking, what's her name? Yara Shahidi, but not really. Probably for the hair and the skin tone, because oddly enough, the only person I could think of, I keep thinking of, and I can't think of anybody else for Santiago, is John Leguizamo, but now. Like
Oh,
I don't know why I keep thinking John Leguizamo. It's weird.
What I
Or
know,
maybe like
I'm
he
bad with
was
acting names.
he was in the past, but that's like the 90s. So I don't think everybody know that. Everyone remember that
Yeah.
one. He was
I don't
Chi-Chi
know.
in Two on Food.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I can see.
But I don't know. I just feel like
That's an
he kind of
interesting
would be,
choice.
but he's not pretty enough. He's not pretty enough to be Santiago.
No.
And I was thinking like Tika Sumpter could be like her mother.
Oh, what about David Diggs if he had a little bit more street to him?
To play who?
Oh yeah.
Oh.
To play Santiago.
I'm thinking
Hell
like
no.
appearance. I'm trying to go appearance. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going with appearance.
I don't know.
But I'm like, but
What about
I could
what's
also
his face?
Dominique
What about
Fishback
Lucius?
played, Maine.
Man,
Yeah.
what's his name, man?
Oh.
What is his name?
Terrence Howard.
Uh,
Terrence Howard.
Howard.
Yeah, Terrence Howard.
Yeah, Terrence Howard. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
That
Yeah.
can see that. I can see
Yeah.
that.
that would be that would be
It
Santiago.
would work.
That would be Santiago. Right
And
there.
maybe Tika Sumpter, maybe.
Yeah, for the mama.
The mama?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But every
Someone
time I
like Octavia
Ryan Destiny
Spencer.
should play Ryan Destiny should play Winter, but it wouldn't be accurate. Ryan Destiny.
Oh.
It wouldn't be accurate. But I'm thinking like Dominique Fishback would embody. She's the one who played the star's cousin in The Hate You Give, in the movie for The Hate You Give. She's the one that played her cousin, and she was just in Project Power with Jamie Foxx. She was like the girl in there. Like I feel like she would embody she would have just embodied the personality of Winter because she has that in her.
Maybe the Kravitz. What's her first name?
Zoe Kravitz.
Maybe she's a little. I think Winter. I don't think she's the yellow girl. I think her complexion is like mine.
Yeah, she's a little bit more deeper, a slightly deeper kind of olivey brown.
Yeah. I don't know.
I'm thinking like Yara Shahidi skin tone.
Yeah, I can see that.
And probably hair type because she's just talking about how pretty she is and how thinking all these.
And how her hair is real.
It's her hair. Yes.
She ain't got no crusty bottom feet, and I'm like, girl.
Okay. Colorism. Okay.
Okay, but you ain't no PhD or no diploma or nothing. But go off, sis.
That was another thing. We said something about colorism. That was another thing that was kind of prevalent in the book, was colorism.
Yeah.
Which I thought was, I was gonna say I thought was interesting, but at the time that it was written, that was, and it still is, a pretty dominant thing. I just thought I'd bring that up.
Yeah, no, because she in Winter's fantasy of what her family would be like with what's his name, with Midnight, she imagined that she would have a boy that was rough. Like, I don't know, to me she kind of saw him as like dark skin and rough, like Midnight. And she was gonna have these girls that were gonna be pretty and soft and stuff like her, with nice hair like hers. And I was just kind of like, ooh, girl.
Yeah.
She didn't go to school and study biology.
Yeah, you know that Punnett square. It might not work out like that.
It don't work that way.
It was gonna work like that.
Well, she knows she might end up with lesbians for girl, like butch lesbians for girl, and she would end up with like,
how would she handle that? Oh my gosh.
She wouldn't.
She'll handle it like Carisha. She'd be like, I would beat the gay out of him.
Probably.
Basically, she would handle it like Carisha. That's all it is.
Oh my gosh. I mean, if we're talking about how she is homophobic, how in an adaptation, how would she handle that? Oh my gosh. That would actually be good to put in an adaptation.
And she'd have to be checked on it.
Yeah.
And about the home, like putting Will in the movie, I think instead of just like how he just kind of casually says, "Hey, I let the crackheads like do it, and a male jaw is fine." It almost should be that he should be very aware of his own sexuality
Yeah.
and accepting of it,
Yes.
and
Yes.
it's just that
It's winter's
no kind of,
problem. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes.
And how she would have to come to terms
Mhm.
with that issue.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
perceived issue.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. We've been doing this
Yeah.
for like 3 hours.
Yes.
So I guess the next book that we'll be reading is going to be Midnight.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Oh,
So
and
next
what
week.
are what are we gonna call this? Is it a book club now? Is it what's this?
Child,
Oh,
you know,
you got a book club.
I've been trying to refrain. I've been trying to refrain from even naming or causing anything because listen, there's so many book clubs running around. I don't want to confuse nobody. But the
I,
next book that we will be reading is Midnight.
it's midnight, yes. I'm excited about
It will
that
be.
because I'm ready to dissect, and I'm gonna make sure I'm finishing
I
that
am
one.
too. You
Yeah.
got me excited to read it now.
Mm-hmm.
I like I said, I don't think I'm gonna like it. I think I don't remember what I rated the first time because I didn't have good reads at the time. But yeah. Thank you for
All right,
hosting.
y'all.
Thank you. I had a blast.
Yeah.
I had a blast too. We will keep
Oh,
y'all
and thank you,
posted.
Rebecca, about the nails. Thank you, and also thank you about the Slaughterhouse Five. Kurt Vonnegut also inserted himself in his novel.
So
I
we
think a lot
definitely will
of
be
authors are actually
discussing.
starting to do that too.
Huh?
Mhm.
I said I think a lot of authors are starting to do that.
Yeah, to do that.
more.
Yeah. But we
Yeah.
will be discussing the next book, and we will give you all a time and date when we discuss amongst ourselves.
Yeah.
All right, y'all. Good night.
Bye.
Anyway,
Bye.
bye.